original.
Yo. Seems I missed a little bit of promotional material.
In the Citadel found within this crater to perform experiments to try and bring back their dark god.
Only recently, people have started going missing. They head into the Kaza region, they disappear, never to be seen
This game is
again.
all talk,
So
no
it's clear
play.
that
Can I
whatever
watch
they're
this
planning
stupidity?
is about to
It's
come
gonna
to
be
fruition,
Campfire
and
chat
your
today,
job
yeah?
as the players to get in there and stop it.
Citadels are a place where we take what is the best part of Diablo, combat, and we test it in a different way.
I think, honestly, the game has gotten a lot better.
Mechanics that you have to manage on top of that.
For example, a boss has an attack, and as a player, you have to collect
We'll see
an
if
item
it
that allows you
continues.
to reflect the attack back at him. So there's a little bit of a Twitch level mechanic there, where you actually have to time your reaction shot. What's interesting
they're talking about
it is
the
when you get
Dark
multiple
Citadel.
people in there, we're each responsible for reflecting that shot once, so we all have to sort of master the timing of that move. You can't do that kind of
You
thing
watched
without
10 hours
coordinating
of
as a
this
team,
stupid
and that's sort
talk
of the
the past
example of
4
what
weeks.
Citadel
This is
gameplay
stupid.
feels
You'll
like.
come back Sunday.
Designing the Citadel,
Okay,
we designed a
that's
lot of
okay.
really cool
I don't think this
bosses,
is gonna
and so one
last
of the
more
things
than
that
like an
we did
hour,
is
and then
we
we'll go
took
back
that
to Rimworld.
design
But
and made,
if this
like,
is not your
armor
cup
sets
of
for
tea,
each of the
that's completely
classes.
fair.
That way you feel like you took their armor and you feel like you're wearing a little bit of them after your victory.
We also have a currency that's dedicated
I'm very
to
interested in
Citadel,
seeing what
where,
comes
as
next
you play
for the
through,
game, like what's
vendor
happening.
can
So
be interacted with to buy custom cosmetics that are unique to the Citadel. You can play with 2 people, but the ideal experience is for 4. In order to facilitate
I really
that,
don't like
we
that
built
it
an
is
all-new party
forced
finder
group,
feature,
man.
and the community has been pretty vocal about wanting this for a long
It's
time.
really bad.
It made a lot of sense to us to pair it with this new Citadel mode.
It really is an activity that's geared towards people who love to play together with their friends or with strangers and enjoy that cooperative gameplay.
I'm okay
I
with them
cannot wait
focusing
for
on
players
it
to
being
get into the world.
cooperative,
I'm
but
really
it
just
should be
excited for people
soloable.
to see all the little hidden storytelling elements that the team has fit in.
There's interesting things to find and see and discover around every corner, and it's just a really great experience getting to explore Nahantu.
All right. Let's go.
Hello, Diablo community. Welcome to another Campfire chat. This is the patch 2.0
I just heard
Campfire chat.
swear
for
she
PTR.
probably maybe needs
As
me
you
while
guys
they're
can see,
introducing
we're in a
themselves.
little bit of a new environment. We're all doing this from home. We had to do a quick last-minute pivot about 24 hours ago. I was struck by some con flu after Gamescom, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our production teams behind the scenes. Lucas, Jade, and Rich, they made a quick pivot to allow us to do this and for us to be safe and to be able to still give you guys this exciting information for patch 2.0. But to lead us off, I do want us to do some quick intros for everyone here on the actual panel. So Colin, would you like to start off the intros?
Yeah, sure. I'm Colin on the design team.
Hello, I'm Aislinn Hall. I'm a systems designer with a focus on live balance.
It's a bit low.
Hey everyone, I'm Charles Dunn.
Oh, he's
I'm
high.
a class
Hello.
designer working on the live balance for Diablo 4.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeevan Sidhu, and I also work on the systems team.
Expert
Awesome.
game designer.
So we got a whole panel here, way more than what we normally have because we have so much to actually cover. We do want to jump into things pretty immediately, but I did want to recap really quickly. Obviously, last week we
Why are
were
they in there?
at Gamescom. We made some really big announcements for
Why are they not
Vessel of
doing it the way
Hatred,
they
where we
usually do?
announced, you know, the mercenaries that
Did I
will be
miss
coming
that?
to Vessel of Hatred, along with how that system works with like reinforcements. It's like a new take of how mercenaries play within Diablo, especially since mercenaries has such a storied history within the franchise itself. And of course, we also talked about the Cuirass Undercity and the Dark Citadel, along with the Party Finder feature that players will be able to actually partake in with Vessel of Hatred and use that for Dark Citadel and other features within the game. We do actually have a blog up on Diablo4.com that does do a good deep dive across all of those specific items, so you guys can actually check that out. But we have a packed agenda today. This will be a long one, so we hope that everyone will sit down and grab a snack and join us as we talk about
Okay,
some
so
pretty
definitely not
large
just an
systemic
hour.
changes that will be coming with Diablo 4, along with some new stuff that we'll be sharing as well that will also be coming with Diablo 4. So we're going to start off with some progression updates. We're going to move off into some class and balance changes, along with some quality of life updates, and then we'll kind of cap it off with a cool new announcement that will be coming with Vessel of Hatred. So Aislinn, Colin, I know you guys want to jump into some of these big progression changes that you guys were talking
So
about
supposedly
last
they're
week.
overhauling progression
take it away.
just as hard as they did items in Season 4.
Thanks, Adam. And I'm sure everyone has no idea what the big surprise is at the end.
None whatsoever.
So right. Let's jump into the progression. So when we launched the game, we had a sort of vision for the game that we felt like was really fun to play through once, where you'd sort of traverse through these world tiers and you'd be gaining new sacred items rarely, and then you'd be getting ancestral items when hopping into World Tier 4. And as we played the game more and more, and as we've gotten feedback, that necessarily hasn't really been super fun. So we've sped up a lot of the progression to sort of get you into that space that where you feel powerful, where you have autonomy over your choice in terms of difficulty and challenge and reward. Diablo is all about that progression, right? And sort of blasting and feeling efficient. So we wanted to take a step back after looking at itemization. We've added a ton of itemization progression that we think is feeling pretty good. There's a lot of ways to customize your character. There's a lot of ways to progress your itemization. We wanted to look at other aspects of the game. So that came in the form of like, what hasn't aged super well? What are the things that we really enjoy and we see that you all enjoy? And doubling down on that. So two of those things are difficulty and overall just character progression from your paragons, your glyphs, etc. And we've sort of taken the approach of like really doubling down and embracing again what has been really fun, right? Blasting, being efficient, having control over your challenge and reward, right? Profane Mind Cages is awesome when you can stack it to 3 and you can hop into those Hell Tides and just start getting tons of experience and reward for pushing that challenge. Key dungeons like Nightmare Dungeons, Infernal Hordes, really pretty much every endgame in the system at this point has a tiering system associated with it, and we think that's like pretty indicative of like what has been fun, and we want to embrace that. And part of that is that idea of I can push really hard to get more efficiency. Part of that's conquering milestones, right? It's really good. It's a ton of fun.
This is way too much talking about a fucking intro slide, bro.
25
Move on.
In the latest release, just to see if
We
I
don't care
could do
about
it.
the goals,
It's
man.
a ton of fun.
Like, we've read them.
And
You've
it's
read
sort
them
of
up.
all about embracing that, gaining power in multiple ways, feeling super powerful. And then another thing that we really wanted to look at in terms of making this better is alting. We made a change to make it so that the mythic uniques could be equipped at level 35, and if you've done that, it's a really badass experience where roll a barbarian, slap your grandfather on him, and you just blast through the leveling experience, and it's a ton of fun. That being said, we've added tons of sort of power to the equation, and we wanted to make sure that we also gave you more autonomy to sort of challenge yourself with all that new power, and we're adding a ton of new power in the expansion as well,
bro.
So to cover it again, right, we want to look at expanding the progression.
Don't cover it again. You've covered it 4 times.
Come patch 2.0. So with that, Aislinn actually has a bunch of exciting changes to talk about here.
Oh, for the love of God.
I do. Thank you, Colin. Okay, everyone, I want you to put on your thinking caps.
No, I want you to get moving.
We have a lot of details to cover, so buckle up. We, in fact, have a topic screen here because there's so many things regarding progression that we're going to be talking about today. So the way that we're approaching this presentation is we're basically going to be bringing you through what a character's journey would actually look like. Starting by talking about the character journey and then talking about some difficulty tier changes that are coming, and then going deeper into, how you're going to be gaining more rewards from those said difficulty tiers. So yeah, without further ado, let's simply jump in and get started with the character journey. Okay, so some changes coming to how you're going to be leveling up. There's going to be a level adjustment, first of all, coming to patch 2.0. Right now in the live game, you go from character level 1 to 50. Those are your skill point levels. And then every level after 50 is a Paragon level where you're earning 4 Paragon points per Paragon level. We're going to be splitting those out in patch 2.0. And so you're going to earn Paragon points, which are going to be separate from your character level. Levels 1 to 50 represent those character levels, And there's also going to be a new max character level, quote unquote, of level 60. And that means that you are going to be earning 10 more skill points from what
you're
you
gonna make
had
the tree
been
bigger
earning
as well then?
Pre-patch 2.0. There's also going to be a reimagined pace to the leveling journey. So we have a lot of new difficulty tiers that are being added to the game. More on that soon. But effectively, lower difficulty tiers are going to be offering you a slower pace if you're a newer player, you just want a very casual, chill experience. But you're going to be able to bump it up if you want to. Like if you're, engaging with tempering, you're engaging with all these systems that are making your character stronger, and you want something to test that against, we're aiming to give that to you. And these difficulty tiers are going to be offering you improved efficiency, improved rewards, and the goal is to improve your pace if you can blast through these difficulties.
Yeah, this
now,
is a lot like the mine cages, right? Like we sort of heard, we heard you like mine cages, so we put it in the game systemically, like from whispers to Helltide to literally everything in the world. Like maybe you like doing dungeons.
Wait, so
and really,
World Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 is gone now, and it's difficulty instead.
What they want, and it's not just
so the capstone dungeons are gone.
Difficulty.
Yeah, totally. Like we were just playing on the development team, and we were playing in Helltides, and playing with mine cages, and we were like, "This is great." Like I want to just be able to do this, or like have this option available to me, like basically whenever I'm playing. So that's a big part of these changes. Moving on here to the number adjustments. So as a lot of you guys found in footage, yes, there is a pretty substantial number adjustment. So a big part of this is we want to make sure that there's room for growth. And we're adding a lot of player power in patch 2.0 and Festival of Hatred. And we want to make sure that numbers don't get so crazy that we cannot even fathom them, right? And so a big part of this is giving us a good starting point in patch 2.0 where we can afford to grow numbers.
Aislinn, I think it's really important, to have numbers that are like, when you're like doing damage numbers to see ones that are meaningful to you, right? If you're increasing your damage like even 10x, but it's taking it from like an 8 or 9 digit number to a 10 digit number, it's almost impossible to see that kind of growth in player power. So with numbers that are more readable on screen, that A, makes it much more obvious when you're getting more powerful, and just makes the game as a whole easier to kind of comprehend.
What the fuck kind of argument is that? If you get 10x damage,
this is relative,
things are gonna fucking insta evaporate when you were before you were fighting it. The fuck do you mean you're not gonna read it? Who the fuck cares about the size of the number?
We're not at the top end.
It's whatever. I think it's wasted effort, but it's fine.
Really, this is all about having actually like sort of what we set out to do when we launched the game is have more grounded numbers for longer.
It's fine.
It's not to say that
doesn't matter.
It's insane in the
stupid argument.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, you can feel you get 10x more powerful.
You're
what
still
the
gonna
fuck
have
you
a
mean?
lot of power to game.
Oh, I'm in a mood today, huh?
And yeah, finally, just going back to this first bullet here on this slide, we're going to talk more about Paragon later, but for now, we're going to focus on some other things.
Then please just fucking go. Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's talk about how monsters are changing.
Wait, you kidding me? You just said you were
going to... streamlined monster health and damage in a pretty big way. We took a look at how monsters gain health and how they gain damage over different difficulty tiers. And we've really like honed in and kind of universalized our approach to how they're gaining power throughout your character experience. And this is going to be applying to all monster types, normal monsters, minions, which are elites, little buddies, elites themselves, and of course bosses. And all of these monsters now have health that's relative to their normal monster counterpart on any given like difficulty tier. And what this does is it really helps smooth difficulty progression and the difficulty of any experience that you're currently in. Secondly, we have some changes to monster scaling. So monsters are going to scale to a pit tier, and we're going to talk more about that as well pretty soon too. So sit tight. And the big thing here is that monsters are always going to match the player level now. So on live, we have a world where monsters can be, 100 levels offset of you and anywhere in between. And that can be fairly hard to understand. And so a big part of this pass is kind of removing that element of the game so that we can focus on what difficulty we're currently in and using that as the judge of how hard or how easy or wherever in between the content you're currently
So now you're just not going to be able to
is.
visually see it.
And
you're
finally,
just going to know it's okay.
We have some pretty cool combat tuning changes. So we've taken a lot of looks at, like the moment-to-moment combat pacing in the game. And monster mechanics across the board have been adjusted to really hone in on player momentum. You're here to slaughter demons. We want you to move quickly through the game. And we don't necessarily want monsters to be slowing you down, especially normal monsters. And to achieve this,
isn't that their entire
we've
purpose?
Reduced instances of getting one shot like out of nowhere, and we've also adjusted boss HP so that they're not quite as grindy after you're moving in from, after blasting down AOE packs in the pit, for example.
That's good.
Yeah, it was
definitely very needed.
Point. Oh, great call.
Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, just saying, right, that's always been the pain point in the pit so far is like, hey, you're really strong, you blast through most of the dungeon, and then you get up to the boss, and the boss takes, 5 minutes or more. That's just like such a slog. So we're definitely making sure it's a more consistent experience in a given difficulty tier. You're going to have a more consistent experience across boss and other portions of the game.
Yeah, and we've already taken a lot of steps towards this. In one of the previous seasons, we set it so that you wouldn't get armor cap penalties as the monsters leveled higher than you, right? So this is really just sort of consolidating a lot of the I'm gonna get shit for the Blizzard math on the back end to make sure that like a lot of the things are really being reworked on the back end to address the problems we see on live with the crazy exponential scaling of boss health from like 4 different multipliers and the crazy exponential damage that some of the monsters are getting. It's like yes, the corpse bow, of course, dying in one shot from off screen. A lot of those things should be much more consistent as you're climbing through those difficulty tiers, which we're going to talk more about in the future or in this presentation.
Very soon, in fact.
Yeah, so move.
Like right now. Difficulty tiers.
Right now.
Let's talk about it. So this is our beautiful Blizzard illustration, if you will, of current day difficulty.
What?
Art by Colin. Thank you very much.
Got to call out Colin. Yeah.
Oh, no.
We've got
we're going to get art for this.
This is art. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this
is beautiful.
What the fuck
Modern
am I looking
art.
at?
Yeah, you can see we have the big bone boss. Very, very sad at the current state of things up there. So what this is basically illustrating is that there are basically brackets right now on live where various content is relevant. You have world bosses that stay relevant for a certain amount of time. You have Helltide that stays relevant, maybe a little bit longer than world bosses do. And then you have world tiers 1 and 2. Then you have world tier 3, which is, very sad. Sorry, world tier 3.
Yeah.
And then world tier 4.
Magnifying glass, you can see it.
Yeah. Maybe if you look really closely, you can see how long it takes to go through world tier 3. And then world tier 4, which has like a bit of a tail, but still pretty short. And then we compare it to like where our character's power currently exists, which is, you've got level 1 to 100, and then of course your journey throughout all of the pit tiers. And basically what this is illustrating is a lot of these content types fall off. World bosses don't stay relevant forever. Helltide doesn't stay relevant forever. The world tiers you're living on in the open world don't stay relevant. And eventually it simply becomes about running the pit. And that's the place where you can judge your character's strength. We don't necessarily want the game to work that way. We want a lot of activities to stay fun and interesting and engaging for as long as possible.
Oh, no.
And so to accomplish that,
that sounds like we're going to have to do Helltide
coming to difficulty
more
tiers.
Than we already are.
So let's dive into the meat and potatoes of this, talking about pit arbitration. And that's just a fancy way of basically saying that the pit is going to be something behind the scenes that's setting the pace of all difficulty in the game across all content types.
So we're back to D3 and Rift
tiers. So pit
tiers
are going to match difficulty tiers. There's going to be 5 pit tiers per standard difficulty, which is just encapsulating 4 new world tiers pre-level 60, which are normal, hard, expert, and penitent. And then there will be 15 pit tiers per torment difficulty. And there are going to be 4 torment difficulty tiers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Difficulty tiers are going to derive monster health, damage, and intensity from the pit tier that is associated with that difficulty tier. And I know that's a little complicated, but we're going to have some supporting stuff to show what this means a little better.
How about you just fucking say it's like
and I do want to call out intensity here. Colin, do you want to talk about monster intensity raising between difficulty tiers?
Yeah, so intensity is something we played around with in the base game, and it's sprinkled out throughout the game. But what intensity is it's a backend system that controls monster aggressiveness as well as monster intelligence. So by aggressiveness, it's things like they attack faster, they have lower cooldowns, they move faster, and then intelligence is they predict your movement more, they'll face you more. So if you know it has a big swing, it's actually going to try and track you a little bit more accurately. So it's not just the health and damage that's going up through these difficulty tiers. The monsters are actually becoming a little bit more dynamic and fast-paced. And we think that feels pretty good, especially when it's sort of scaling through the new difficulty tier system that we have.
Yeah, this is something we do have on the live game, but in the new patch 2.0, you're really going to feel that difference. Currently, you feel a little bit of difference in between the different world tiers, and that's just going to be magnified. And your moment-to-moment combat it's not just going to be higher numbers. The moment-to-moment will feel different and harder at these higher torment difficulties.
Yep.
That sounds a little ass if they start tracking you heavily. Dude, I was really excited for this, but holy
so let's talk about
it's bad compared to usual.
So this is basically how people are going to be moving through these different difficulty tiers. So the pit is going to unlock once you hit character level 60, which is the new maximum character level in patch 2.0. So pit tiers associated with standard difficulties are going to unlock immediately, which is pit tiers 1 through 20. You're going to be able to challenge all of those immediately once you're max level.
My god, so you have to go directly to the pit?
You're going to need to beat pit tier 20 to unlock the first torment tier. Once you beat pit tier 20, you're allowed to go into the overworld on torment 1. And then, as we see here, there are 15 pit tiers per torment difficulties. So to unlock torment 2, you would then need to progress through the pit and beat pit tier 35, at which point you can now go into torment 2 in all other activities, so on and so forth. So this is basically creating a... Sorry, go ahead, Colin.
Oh, I was going to jump in and say, like, what's kind of interesting is, like, torment 1 you can think about as world tier 3 today. And what we're sort of doing is essentially saying, now that level cap is 60, you actually can find some of the best items in the game very early, right? Imagine if you were able to just start finding the best items in the game in World Tier 3. That's really sort of what we're talking about here. We're really speeding up when you can actually get to the end game where we've added things like the pit. We've added things like nightmare dungeons and more end game activities for you to engage with, and item modification systems. So it really is sort of getting you into the fun faster, which also makes alting a lot more cool, right? It's way easier to sort of get to that point where, all right, I'm in the end game. I'm going to start looking for awesome items. I'm going to start modifying my items.
We're going to play
so we think that
World
like,
Tier 2 until 60?
Substantial change to how you play the game.
Dude, I'm in World Tier 4 by 60.
Why we kind of built it around the pit. And why
I'm in World Tier 4 at like 45.
How do y'all think about that?
No.
Yeah, so right now the pit is a fantastic razor to judge your character against. And I think that this overhaul is effectively turning the pit into the game's backbone, to use kind of a gruesome term, but we're Diablo, so whatever. It's basically turning the pit into the game's backbone of like difficulty, and all other difficulties is kind of derived from that. And it gives us a very predictable and understandable pace for you to experience all other activities in the game based on the pit's difficulty.
Yeah, and that razor is great for pushing difficulty, right? You think about how part of what's really fun, again, about Diablo is that feeling of progression, that feeling of becoming powerful, then taking on a big-ass demon, killing it, getting awesome loot. And what the pit is going to do is you're going to push that difficulty, then unlock new torment tiers, which is going to unlock more efficiency for you. And you can sort of think about it as like we've added not just a World Tier 5, but a World Tier 5 and 6. as part of this torment system, and it's something we can continue to sort of evaluate and build on as characters become more powerful. And we
but I have to be max level,
play through the system,
and geared enough to do the
I think
pit
it's also a lot about
in order to get into them
across content, right? Currently, in the live game, we've got a lot of different levels of different types of things, right? You've got Nightmare Dungeon keys, you've got pit levels, you've got Infernal Horde tiers. And we just kind of realized that, hey, the pit is something that we have, really good delineation between the different levels. So you've got a wide spread of different
what you realized is how you did it in D3, and that was a good idea.
Across the whole game to make a more consistent experience. When you're in a certain difficulty
it's impressive
tier,
that you didn't
you're just
do
going to
that
get a more consistent
before you
experience
launched
across
the game,
all activities.
But,
Right.
Yeah.
So like when you're on Torment 2, you're going to know that all the content you're facing is on the level of Torment 2. But right now on the live game, you go into a pit tier 50 and you're like, okay, it's pit tier 50 difficulty. And then you go into a Nightmare Dungeon tier 50 and it's a totally different difficulty. And then you go into an Infernal Hordes tier 8 and you're like, wait a minute, this is extremely hard compared to these other ones. They're just not similar, right? And so we want to create a more level playing field so that difficulty is easier to understand.
How stupid is the average Diablo player? Like right now, how difficult the content is derived from the level of the fucking creature you're fighting.
It's also, in some sense, leveling up all the activities.
How can you confuse pit tier 50 with Nightmare tier 50 and with
falls off? Like if
tier
you're doing
8
the pit,
of the Infernal
you're level
Hordes.
100, you're level 90 in the pit. Like whispers are terrible, right? Like you're not actually going to run whispers when you're pushing that deep into the game. But now when sort of things are leveling up with torment tiers, you have a place to go and sort of juice the efficiency from those different activities if you like that activity.
Yeah, and this kind of carries over to other activities, not just whispers. It's like, your Hell Tides.
Yeah, the whole world is leveling, right?
Yeah, and like which is another thing. Like Infernal Hordes is something that obviously was introduced in Season 5, is coming back, and is a permanent feature within the game, and is also going up with the rest of the content.
Yep. All right. So let's talk a little more about the details of difficulty tiers.
My bro.
So on the right-hand side here, you can see this table. It's basically showing off the associated pit tier with any given difficulty tier.
But you can't go to 200
simply starts
pit
on
anymore?
1, and then like you saw before, it goes up by 5 each time until you get to Torment tiers, at which point it goes up by 15 each time. So Torment 4 lands on 65, Torment 1 starts on 20. And in light of this, we have changed the highest pit tier to be 100, down from 200. And this doesn't mean that the pit tier 100 is going to be the same difficulty as it is on live. It's going to be harder. So each pit tier you're going up is going to be harder than it was before.
So essentially, the difference between the tiers are half,
where we have smart
doubled.
And what that means is your things like Infernal Hordes or Nightmare Dungeons.
Unless it's easier to do 100
than 200. The keys to enter those activities are now going to follow the current difficulty tier that you're on. So if I have an Infernal Horde key and I'm on Torment 3 and I use it, I'm going to go into a Torment 3 difficulty Infernal Horde. And the same is true for Nightmare Dungeons. So we're pretty excited about that change because, again, coming back to all these things we've talked about, where it just kind of makes things easier, just makes life easier.
Yeah, it's a big
easier is not necessarily better.
On live right now, you get a bunch of sacred, Nightmare Dungeon keys, and I'm sure everyone runs a ton of World Tier 3.
I'm guessing they can stack now.
You definitely don't just.
No, they still have affixes, right?
Weapon. But what I'm getting at is a lot of those keys just end up getting salvaged, and now when all keys can sort of carry weight through various torment tiers. Getting a Nightmare key is this interesting choice of like, well, do I keep it or do I run it now? Because if I keep it, I can just use it at a later time. And it's really about giving the players that choice on when do they want to run this content. We're not just going to invalidate that key and say, oh, in Torment 2, you need to find a new key to do this thing. So I think it's definitely making key management a lot easier and more fluid as well. One thing on the pit, Aislinn, that I think is really interesting is we definitely have rescaled the pit. Tier 100 is sort of like our 200 on live, but I think that's something that we definitely want to keep an eye out on PTR. We don't have any problems with increasing the amount of pit tiers. Like, this is something we can definitely revisit if we see in PTR that you all are insane, which is probably going to happen, and you beat tier 100. We really like that it's a razor and measuring stick, and we don't want to take that away from players. So that's something that we want to get PTR feedback, and we could really use your help in breaking that system and seeing how far you can push it.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. And like we've said on this stream, there are going to be a lot of new player power
But that
opportunities
essentially means
coming.
that to
And
unlock the
so,
final
yeah,
difficulty,
please show
you
us
need
what
to
you got,
right now be able
as
to
they
do
say.
pit tier 130. I don't know how many people are doing that.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's just dive a little more into the details. I think we went over a lot of this stuff already, but we can kind of go through this slide here. So yeah, all content in the game exists within an expanded difficulty tier selection, like we were talking about. I think an important thing to call out here is that, for example, Penitent is, if you're comparing it just to like kind of understand what it's going to look like relative to live right now, Penitent's kind of going to end up being like World Tier 2 if you added 45 monster levels on top of it. And that's intended to kind of be the upper echelon of like pre-max level character leveling. So
World
if you really want to
plus
amp up the
45
difficulty
monster
to
levels.
as hard as you can make it, like going on to Penitent is where you want to be. And this is just a lovely little visual aid. We've got some cool new icons for these difficulty tiers. Normal, hard, expert, and penitent. It gets harder as you keep going. Okay, so yeah, and we really want this to be like opt-in, not progression locked. And so the vanilla Diablo 4 difficulty tiers kind of operate as
unhappy as I am.
tiers, right? And what I mean
So
by
this is
progression
D3,
tiers
yeah.
is the moment you get to World Tier 3, as Colin was saying, like you unlock sacred items. Maybe you go into a dungeon so you can find a sacred weapon.
That's where the money is going.
And these things unlock so quickly and they drop
So
so
capstones
frequently
are
that you
obsolete.
kind of just got this huge burst of power. And
Can
you never
we
really got to
please have
feel
more
that
words
power.
on the slides? Let's go.
And we want to make sure that you are like feeling
8 difficulty
each
again. They took the worst part of D3. Why so many levels?
And we really want these new difficulty tiers to be player guided. Like, we want you to be able to make your own decisions.
If it takes this long to explain how difficult you are when they're already badly designed.
What's the right pace for you? And of course, these new difficulty tiers are going to give you improving rewards.
Come
you're going to find
on,
more
man.
gold, more experience, and you're going to have more loot efficiency per difficulty
fuck
tier.
does loot
so the higher
efficiency
difficulty
mean?
tier you can fight the game on, the more efficient your experience is going to be, effectively.
Yeah, and I think that's really...
Go ahead, Charles.
Go. Yeah, I was just saying that's really like what I view as the differentiating factor between what current D4 is and in the new patch 2.0 is if you enter Torment 1, you can find the best item in Torment 1. You could complete your character and get full best in slot and everything. It's just going to take a while, right? It's going to be less efficient. You're going to be getting less loot. And whereas in the live game right now, right, you just can't find the best things in World Tier 3. You are kind of obligated to go to that World Tier 4. And now, if you're able to clear higher torments with efficiency, that's just going to be the best option for you to find the gear more efficiently, but you aren't forced into Torment 4 to find the best items in the game.
Yeah, that's something I've really liked about it is that we get to start the end game a lot earlier with Torment, right? Because there's nothing that you're excluded from. There's no awesome piece of loot that you can't find by Torment 1. And so you get to really start to test your build after it's kind of gotten some real optimization, I think, much earlier into the journey than before.
Am I completely out of touch? I start World Tier 4 at like level 40 to 50. Level 45 more often than not.
Bosses. All of those unlock in Torment 1. The
How
cost
do I
to
get to start the end game sooner at level 60 after I clear pit level 20 or whatever it was?
If you can beat it on a higher Torment tier, you're going to get way more uniques. So you get a handful of uniques starting in Torment 1, way more uniques in obviously Torment 4, but the cost, because it remains static, we're not going to ask you to get anything extra like a Stygian Stone. That just means as long as you can kill that Torment 4 boss, you're getting way more efficiency out of that boss.
So the Stygian Stones are gone?
It feels amazing to sort of progress through those Torment tiers and just unlock way more power opportunity.
Yeah, we don't really have this differentiation of like a a regular version of the late game boss, like a regular version of Duriel, and then the tormented echo of Duriel. That's not really a distinction that we have anymore. Whereas like previously it would cost more materials to summon the tormented version, but it would give more rewards. Now it's the same cost across the different torment tiers. It's just if you're able to conquer him on Torment 4, that's where you're going to get the absolute most bang for your buck.
Tiers. We're not going to be able to do bosses until we go for the highest one.
Yeah, and I want to just
because
double down on like Torment 1 is where the end game starts now,
just did away
and
with this system
each torment tier that
because
you're
of the
ascending
exact
is making
problem
your
I
end game,
mentioned.
More fun.
Here we go,
basically,
D4.
Because you're going to be getting cooler stuff or more frequently. Okay, so enough about
didn't we just
difficulty
change
tiers.
that for
Let's move
season
on
4?
to some itemization changes. So, item strength. We have what I like to call the item power shuffle happening in patch 2.0. Items with item power above 540 are going to be adjusted to 540. And affix bands in lieu of this, or in addition to this rather, are going to be adjusted as well. So yeah, items at the new character level max they're gonna max out at 750. And that's not actually the highest item power that's going to be in the game, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. But most items you're going to be finding once you hit max character level will.
Why the hell wouldn't, if they're max now, why are they not max later?
And
well, I don't care. I don't play Eternal, but
going to be
I guess fuck you guys.
Much better item power items from levels 51 to 59. There's going to be big item power jumps. So once you start leveling your character past those original 50 character levels, you're going to start finding a lot better gear.
So 800.
Okay, so let's take a look at what an ancestral item looks like in patch 2.0. Oh, could we? Yeah, let's take a look here real quick. So you'll notice here that this item has 800 item power, which is 50 higher than the max 750 that I was talking about before. You'll also notice on the right-hand side that is the Torment icon. So ancestral items can be found starting on Torment 1. They're going to become more frequent as you ascend Torment difficulties, but they're still going to stay pretty rare throughout all Torment levels. You'll also notice that the greater affix on this item is highlighted. That is because now whenever you find an ancestral item, they're always going to have one greater affix. They can roll with more, but they will be guaranteed a single one every single time.
What?
So let's dive in more into the details.
Right, Aislinn, is part of finding a greater affix on live right now is sometimes it's on life per second. It's like, oh, okay. Got a greater affix on life per second. But now when you see an ancestral item, it's always going to have a greater affix. And that ancestral eye power bump, the affix bump, is going to feel really good. Even if you miss that affix, it's still a huge upgrade to your character if you haven't found one of these before.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes, right, you get an item that has multiple greater affixes on live, and it's it's not at 925. It's not at the highest item power, and that's kind of a mixed bag, right? Like, well, it's kind of good, but it's a lower item power. And now things with greater affixes will be definitionally at that highest
all
item
this
power.
does is move the goalpost. Now the only items you're saving is the one with 2 greater affixes.
Okay, so let's talk about the details here. So sacred items are not going to drop anymore. They're kaput. You're going to be looking at normal items pre-torments, and then you're going to be chasing ancestral items once you are in torment tiers. So yeah, starting in Torment 1, they're going to start to drop. As I said, they're going to become more common as you go up, but again, they're going to stay fairly rare. They're never going to, be like the only thing that's dropping.
So ancestral is now just
ancestral
ancient.
items are intended to be
where
you're finding forever items. So when you find like a really good ancestral weapon or, of whatever slot that you may not have an ancestral item for, that's going to be a big moment. That's going to be an exciting moment where you're going to get something a lot better because they also have their own affix band as well. So these ancestral items are going to have better affixes than their non-ancestral counterparts too. Something to note is that greater affixes only drop on ancestral items. You're not going to be finding greater affixes on non-ancestral. So when you see a greater affix drop on the ground, you're going to know that is an ancestral item. Ancestral items also have 2 tempering slots, up from 1 on non-ancestrals, and they're masterworkable up to 12, whereas non-ancestrals are masterworkable up
Why
to
the
4.
fuck would you masterwork
And finally,
anything
they are going to have
that isn't
higher
ancestral?
aspect ranks too. So you're
Oh
going to
my
find
God.
legendary aspects that become better on ancestral items.
And Charles, we actually added a ton of power to legendary aspects to accommodate this. We didn't just sort of readjust where those power bands are coming from.
Yeah, all of the legendary aspects that now scale a little bit further into the ancestral tier, we basically just tacked on 5 new levels kind of on top of the current value. So you're just going to find even more powerful legendary effects than you have currently in the new ancestral.
Who cares? Just power creep, right? Like just.
It's going to be a lot of fun to find those.
Oh my lord.
Okay. Whew, let's move on to Paragon. So we have some pretty big glyph updates coming with patch 2.0. There's been a significant rework to how many ranks you can earn on any given glyph, from 21 to 100, which is a lot of new ranks. But we want to make sure that there's still texture in that system, right? And so because of that, we also have a new a new glyph rarity, legendary. So once you upgrade a glyph to rank 46, it becomes a legendary glyph, which you can see here on the right. Its spirit glyph is level 50, so it's past that 46 mark. It's legendary.
What?
You're going to get a glyph radius increase at rank 15, which is already in the live game. But you're also going to get another radius increase at rank 46 when it becomes legendary.
God.
And this is making them bigger than they could have been previously. So you're going to get more space with your glyphs because of this. And when a glyph becomes legendary, it also unlocks a significant bonus, more so than it did before. And you can see that on the bottom of this glyph here. It's got the legendary bonus, increases critical strike damage by 21.6%. And it's very important to note that this is a multiplicative bonus.
Other games has power creep, D4 has power leap.
Bonus. So you're going to be getting a lot of power from that bonus there. Something else I want to bring up is that glyphs are moving to the pit. So you're going to be upgrading your glyphs in the pit. You're no longer going to be upgrading them in nightmare dungeons. And it's going to be an attempt-based system. So when you finish a pit run, you're going to go to the end, and you're going to be able to have some chances to level up your glyph and increase their ranks.
Hello,
and
we're making
if
D3.
you are in a pit that is 10 tiers higher than your current glyph, you're going to have guaranteed success.
Oh, that sounds
and for every
so familiar.
20 pit tiers that you're that the pit level you're in is higher than your current glyph that you're trying to upgrade, you're going to get bonus ranks so that you can accelerate the process. Do you want to speak more to that, Colin?
Yeah, I think this is a really important note because you could easily look at the rank 100 and be like, oh my god, the grind is even longer. But based on how that upgrade chance works, it's guaranteed as long as you're beating pit tiers that are higher than your glyph. And then how that bonus math ends up playing out is if you're beating, for example, a pit tier 30, that's roughly somewhere between today's world tier 3 and 4, you can upgrade a glyph from 1 to 15 in 3 runs. So you think about the difference between today's game and patch 2.0, you're getting those glyphs leveled way faster if you're pushing that difficulty. And what we really wanted to do here was we've heard a ton of feedback around how the XP system for Nightmare Dungeons feels really grindy. It also just doesn't serve the Nightmare Dungeons very well, right? It's like, how do I get to the end as fast as possible, but nothing in the dungeon matters, right? And that what that does is in the pit, it's all about speed and efficiency, and it sort of embraces that. And we think that that's just really going to accelerate your pit glyph upgrading speed. And the chance, you could sort of, I want to be really clear with the chance. The chance-based system is essentially there because it felt really bad when it was binary. Like when we said, hey, you need to beat the pit tier, or you need to beat a pit that's 10 levels higher than your glyph, and if you don't, you get nothing. That just felt really bad. So the chance is not there to increase the grind or slow down progression. It's actually just there to protect from like it feeling just terrible to not get literally anything from that run. So again, to be clear, it's 100% chance as long as you're pushing difficulty. We think that this fits the content a lot better. We've heard a ton of feedback around like the pit rewards feeling lackluster, and there's not really a reason to push difficulty. You know, you sort of just want to hone in on like 90
But
or
then
101,
essentially,
depending on where
if
you're
you
at in
can't
terms of your
do
progression
pit
journey
tier
on live.
100, you'll never
This
get a
system
100
really
glyph.
encourages you to push and gives you a tangible
Just like
reward
D4
every
or
single
D3,
time.
sorry, with the gems.
Yeah, and I think it's important
The
that
only way to
there's the
get
consistency of like the
realistically get
communication between, right? So,
150
hey,
was
my
to do
glyphs
150.
are currently level 50. Well, what kind of pit tier should I be approaching to upgrade these? Well, somewhere in the range of 50 to 60, right? You know, just a little bit higher so that you can keep pushing that harder content. And also, if you have a glyph down at level 1, because maybe you haven't paid attention to that glyph, it's going to level up much faster if you are already proven yourself, proven that you can hang in pit tier 50, for instance. You're going to level those up very quickly.
I think what's also cool is if you have a build that you feel isn't doing as well as you go up in Torment, it makes it a lot easier to kind of snap something back in and catch up faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the further you progress, the easier it is to level those up. So here we have a video basically just showing off what the new UI looks like for upgrading a glyph in patch 2.0. So you can see that it's showing you the current pit level you're on, the current success chance to get a rank up. And something else I want to call out is that
What's the success
when
chance?
you are, oh yes, right. So this is rank 45 to 46 explicitly, which
What the
is
hell's
the
the
moment
success
where
chance?
you are
Am I
increasing a
stupid?
glyph from rare to legendary. And something important to note about that is that it does cost a fairly significant amount of gem fragments as well, but it's giving you that increased radius size and the new multiplicative legendary bonus, which is pretty sick.
Oh shit, okay.
And here we have an example of showing how the radius gets even bigger in patch 2.0.
My fucking
I want to
God.
call out here that the midpoint says level 21. That is not correct. It is level 15 where the radius increases. But yeah, previously there was only one radius increase. Now with legendary glyphs at rank 46, there is a second radius increase.
That's gonna let you travel further on the Paragon board.
Okay, so let's talk about some more stuff related to Paragon.
Oh, that's nice.
We have realm partitioning for Paragon.
Back from
now, and
D3.
This is kind of getting into
Everything's
alting
they're
that,
making
Colin
D3.
was talking about. We have realm-based Paragon points now. So your Paragon points are going to be shared across an entire realm. And remember that what a realm is like either seasonal softcore or seasonal hardcore or the same
You get
for eternal.
300
Those are
Paragon points
realms.
now.
And these Paragon points are going to stay latent on a pre-level 60
You
character.
get 10 more skill
And what
points.
that means is that
you get 100 more
if you
Paragon
have, let's say,
points.
150
You
Paragon
get
points on a realm,
multiplicative scaling on
those
every
Paragon points will remain inactive on any character that's pre-level 60. But once you hit level 60 on that character, they will have those 150 Paragon points. And it's also important to note that any Paragon points you earn on any of your characters in that realm are going to be shared among all characters in that realm. So if you earn 25 or 50 Paragon points on one character and then hop over to your alt, you're going to have 25 or 50 more Paragon points to spend on that character.
That does feel pretty good because that means you can start with a full Paragon board on your
hefty
alts.
Paragon level increase. So right now the current max besides Renown and Altar of Lilith bonuses is 200, and we're increasing that up to 300, which is going to give you a lot more levels to chase throughout any given season.
It's going to give you a lot more power as
and in
well.
light of these changes coming to Paragon, we've made some adjustments to the way that boards work as well. So because we're offering so much more power with legendary glyphs, and they mean so much more to your build, we're looking to set a maximum for the number of Paragon boards that you can equip at any given time. And this is also because, on live right now, the best strategy is to aim for as many glyph slots as possible. You just go off. You oftentimes ignore whatever legendary node bonus
I actually
you're
think
getting,
Diablo might be
just for
about
the glyph
10% worse.
and we want to make sure that you're really
I'm not
focusing
sure these are
on
good
these
changes.
legendary nodes, and that you're focusing on these really cool legendary glyphs that you're getting, and really think about those choices.
Dude, they're capping the amount of Paragon boards. They're giving us 100 more Paragon points.
Complements
And capping us to
I
less
was just going to say
boards?
this really helps complement the additional 100 more levels. Like we've heard a lot of feedback that it feels really flat once you hit 100, that there's just no more progression. You don't really need to kill any of the monsters anymore unless it's explicitly to get the loot drop off of them. And that kind of feels bad, right? Like I'm walking through this dungeon and like I get literally nothing out of killing these monsters. So with the board limit, we've packed a ton of power with additional Paragon levels to grind, a ton of power with the legendary glyphs, but it also creates a situation where once you've achieved all those different things, you don't feel so bad necessarily around not getting to that Paragon level 300. At a certain point, you start to really just sort of really need to hone in on your build, and those extra Paragon points are going to start providing you more of a show of sort of how badass you are, and give you incremental progress that's a little bit less sort of demanding that you must grind through all of this content to unlock every part of your Paragon board.
What kind of fucking players are they aiming for?
Yeah, and something I'm pretty excited about this is that, sometimes on live it can feel like my goal is to get a new Paragon board, and as soon as I achieve that, my goal is to get a new Paragon board and get off the one I just unlocked. And I think this change really lets me kind of explore the boards and think about what specific route optimizations I want to take, and it lets me personalize that a little more, which I'm a pretty big fan of.
Yeah, route optimization. You get 100 more points and you're limited to 5 boards. Yeah, let me optimize
we
it.
Have we just went through a ton of content.
It is kind of, I'm not sure
the
this
changes
is good,
that are coming
Captain
for progression.
Essentially,
to Paragon,
they're
to
just making it
itemization.
D3 now.
I know it was a lot for people to hear. We will actually have a blog immediately up after the stream that will kind of also explain a little bit more of this to players, so that they can actually get a understanding in their own cadence of like what is going to be changing with patch 2.0 for Diablo 4 in regards to some of the progression items. I know, Colin, we're seeing a lot in chat of like, people are noting like, hey, this feels a little D3-ish in ways. I don't know if you wanted to chat or like comment on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm happy to. It's definitely familiar, right? So we thought a lot about like what is the right way to address the player feedback of, we've gotten a bunch of feedback around like World Tier 5, World Tier 6, World Tier 7, right? I want to be able to level up the challenge in the game. I want to be able to get more efficiency. And we wanted to do it in a way that was leaning into what we saw you all were really resonating with, which is getting to the end game faster. And we felt like, okay, well, we could add a World Tier 5 and add Ancestral, Uber Ancestral, and increase the level cap. But that would mean you would just need to grind more to get to that point where you're finding your forever items, doing item modification. And we could add a World Tier 6, Uber Ancestral, right? And it just sort of made us reevaluate what is important. And it's what's important to us is getting people into the end game, getting people finding their forever items, smashing monsters, getting more powerful sort of item modification and efficiency. So that was part of it. And then the other part of it, I'd say, is I think Diablo 4, more than any Diablo, has had a ton of item customization and power along the leveling journey, which really makes the leveling progression feel different, right? Like if you're tempering, if you're imbuing aspects, if you're really min-maxing your reward scheme, you can really push difficulty tiers early. If you've played D3, hard is really the only real difficulty, right? But because we have so many different ways to grow your power, we think that represents a pretty fun challenge of like, how do I take all these pieces and really push as early as I can?
What is impressive is that it took them 6 seasons to find.
One more thing.
Maybe we should have done
really important
what we did in
the
D3
jumps between torments are pretty enormous. We don't expect you to sort of play it like today's D3, where you essentially log in, get your Hadrig set, and hop right into Torment 16. The jumps are actually pretty enormous between Torment 1 and 2, and it creates this really fun like progression through those Torment tiers.
Oh yeah, that sounds really fun. Let me have an enormous jump up to Torment Tier 4 so that I can get into the end game
like a
way slower.
2-hour sort of journey through the Torment tiers, and then now you're in Torment 4, and that's how you play the rest of the game.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and also one thing I'll add is, shouts to Twitch chat, everything that you say, hey, you like what we're doing, big dub. We appreciate it. Much love for the response. Also, all the people in Twitch chat who are like, I don't like this. This isn't working for me. Much appreciation the same. We're looking at what you're saying, we're thinking about it, and we're going to try to incorporate it and make the game better. And I think it's interesting, I'm seeing the sort of Diablo 3 references, and it's like, from our perspective, if something really worked well in Diablo 3, that's more important to us to like do the thing that the players felt like was working for them than anything else, right? The fact that we've done it before in any form,
oh my
to
God,
me, wouldn't stop us from doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
Oh my Lord! Holy shit!
And just doing it the right way.
Yeah,
I just said doing it the right way for D4. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
This is the difficulty of doing everything remote. It feels like it's like a Zoom call, but interrupting each other. And also big shout out to Twitch chat for calling out Jeevan's cord management. I've seen that message a few times already. But so thanks, Aislinn. Thank you, Colin. I know Colin's going to be joining us more on a couple other topics, but we still have a lot to talk about in this stream. And the next thing that we do want to talk about is class changes and everything. And so Charles will be taking us through all the class changes for patch 2.0.
Bigger talent.
Yeah, awesome. So before we get into some of the slides and details, I just wanted to thank Colin and Aislinn for talking about all the systemic updates that are coming. How we're going to test your character and how you're going to progress through it. But my topic's going to be a bit more about how, what are the exact abilities and skills and new legendary effects and uniques that you're gonna get to take on these awesome challenges that are set up through the difficulty tier system. And also a slight disclaimer, PTR is a very early build for whatever is going to go live on patch 2.0, and some of the assets that we've captured here are also still early on. And so some of the exact numbers or some of the wording may slightly be changed, so definitely refer to the patch notes, which we're going to be publishing right after the stream for the exact details and kind of final, in air quotes, numbers that are going to go on the PTR, and of course it still may be subject to change before we actually launch patch 2.0 live. All right, so with that out of the way, let's start talking about some of the tempering changes that are going to come in patch 2.0. So tempering is a system that we introduced back in Season of Loot Reborn, Season 4, that gave you a way to really customize your items and kind of make your build your own. And we've received a lot of feedback on the tempering system, and we're really committed to iterating on and making sure that this system is the best it can possibly be going forward. One of the key points of feedback that we heard was around weapon tempers. So these affixes that you get to attach to your weapons, right? Your weapons are your big important part of your build and your character. And there was a big disparity here where some affixes that were on weapon tempering were multiplicatively increasing your player power, right? Things like double projectiles or things of that nature, or bash cleaving, which was a multiplicative bonus. And others, not so much, right? You had some other ones that were more duration or size effect. And they just were hard to compare against each other. And so going forward in patch 2.0, we've made all weapon tempering affixes multiplicative damage increases, oftentimes to very specific skills. And to accommodate this, we already had one bonus projectiles.
So they're all the same.
And now we're going to have new affixes that give skills chance to deal double damage, which means if triggers the chance to deal double damage, the entire skill is just going to do twice as much damage as before. Every hit of it will deal double damage. It's kind of an all or nothing kind of deal. And then the chance to hit twice is the chance for any time it deals damage, you just get an extra hit of damage. And this allows you to trigger things like lucky hit procs or anything that counts the number of times you deal damage. That's going to trigger an extra time.
So you only get 1 or 2, unless you're Bob, that you get
offensive tempering affixes. These are the ones that can also go on your weapons, but can go on other spots as well. These are going to be additive damage increases. And these will often be to broader categories like
barbarian power creep coming in
strike damage. And whereas the weapon tempers are often talking to more specific skills. And so here we can see an example with the Shadow Augment's Execution, where we had the Sever projectiles chance to cast twice, but now we've got new ones that are chance for Reap to hit twice. So you cast Reap, and every target you hit, there's just a chance to get 2 hits on that target instead of 1. And Corpse Explosion, whenever you cast Corpse Explosion, there is a chance for the entire skill to deal double damage to every target that it hits. Additionally, we've moved those size and duration affixes, which we think are really cool and really interesting ways of modifying your skills. We've moved those over to the utility category. So they're not directly competing with these multiplicative damage increases. You're not going to feel bad that, oh, I'm missing out on damage just to make my area hit a little bit larger or to have a longer duration on a buff. So there's not as much opportunity cost to investing in those size and duration affixes, which are still really cool, ways to customize your character.
No.
We just don't want them to compete with
Remove the cap on ways.
And finally, we know that oftentimes tempering leads itself to, hey, I see this list of 5 or even 6 affixes sometimes. We really are going to try to be limiting tempering recipes to at most 4 affixes that could possibly roll on them, just to give you a little bit better odds of actually hitting the one that you care about than the one that you want, and just be a little bit easier to kind of comprehend. And even so, we're trying to set this limit at 4, but oftentimes we're aiming for just 3 on the recipe, depending on how the grouping them together in ways that make sense. So this is an active area that we're working on, really trying to make sure that it's not quite.
Please remove
It's easier
the cap.
for you to get the right affix out of the tempering recipe by limiting that.
Please remove the cap.
All right, next up, we've got changes to ultimate skills. So ultimate skills can now gain skill ranks. This is probably pretty self-explanatory, but just like every other skill in the game, ultimate skills can now be ranked up to rank 5 in the skill tree.
So they're not making it bigger. That's where the 10 extra points are going.
Will increase the damage output of your ultimate skills, but it's also going to give you cooldown reduction on these ultimate skills as well. So oftentimes other skills you just kind of get one or the other, right? Sometimes it's a cooldown reduction, sometimes it's a damage or healing increase. On ultimate skills, you're going to get kind of the best of both worlds. It's going to be increasing the damage output and reducing the cooldown.
So that's 4 of the points.
And finally, effects that do grant bonus skill ranks on this, such as Harlequin's Crest, the Shaco, that gives plus to all skill ranks. These are only going to apply to ultimate skills that you've already learned in the skill tree.
So you can't get them for free?
And this is to make sure that you still can only equip one ultimate skill. You can't get plus ranks to all skills and then suddenly have access to 4 ultimate skills. We still don't want that. We still want you to just pick one.
Fair.
But you're just going to be getting, you're going to be able to really juice that ultimate skill up. If you really want to make, lacerate be really strong, that's going to be a powerful effect that you can invest more skill points into.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so those are some of the general updates. Let's now talk about the new content coming for each individual class, starting here with our Barbarian. All right, so sometimes you're playing as a Barbarian and you experience a problem, right? You are standing here and there is an enemy over there. What to do? Well, a good Barbarian is going to throw their weapon at the enemy over there to kill them at a distance. Right, so now we've got a new skill called Mighty Throw. It's going to hurl your weapon at an enemy. It's going to deal damage on impact. And then it's going to stick in the ground and do some pulses of damage over time. So even if the initial impact doesn't kill them, there's going to be some extra pulses there. Additionally, we've got some upgrades for it, just like our other skills. Enhanced Mighty Throw is going to increase your attack speed while the weapon is out.
25%?
And then you can either opt into Fighter's Mighty Throw, which is going to give bonuses to that pulsing damage. It causes your weapon swaps to pulse for more and give you a bit of barrier. Or you can opt into Warrior's Mighty Throw, which is going to dramatically increase the initial impact damage, and it's going to stun enemies on impact.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Let's take a video clip of this in action.
Oh, that looks shit.
All right, so we've got Barb, just simple example here with a few enemies. Throws out this, ephemeral version of the weapon, lands, deals a big chunk of damage, and then
I guess because it's so close that it looks bad. I would like to see them throw it a bit further.
Throw in Diablo 2, so this is really exciting.
Yeah, it looks sweet too.
No, it doesn't.
Kind of like bluish yellow, like ancient-y kind of color scheme to it. The VFX looks awesome on it.
So ranged barb is definitely happening in patch 2.0.
For sure. If you want to spec really heavily into this, you're going to be throwing weapons out like crazy.
For 25 few, you gain 10%
we've also got some new
Key
key passives and
cool.
new legendary
unhindered during this time.
for every class here.
So
for Barbarian, we've got Barbed Carapace. This is a key
legendary
passive.
note. Oh,
so it's going to increase your thorns based on how much fury you're spending. And whenever you cast a skill to cooldown, it's going to grant you unhindered for a duration, which allows you to move through enemies. And then enemies that are close to you are going to take or going to take damage from your thorns every second. You're going to kind of pulse damage of your thorns every second.
Okay.
Now this is really cool. It really enables Thorns Barb, which we had a little bit of support for, but one of the big problems of Thorns is that you really wanted enemies
casting
to hit
a
you
weapon mastery skill fortifies you for 10% of your maximum life. That sounds insane.
Damage or to really
but I'm not entirely sure what a weapon mastery skill is.
Passive. Additionally, we've got a legendary Paragon
because
node,
3 points into that, one would assume it's 20 or 30%.
Your Earthquakes have a chance to spawn Dust Devils, and your Earthquake damage is going to be increased by your damage against close enemies. So this is really plays into these Earthquakes and Dust Devil effects, which we kind of call sub-powers internally. these effects that are not skills that you cast directly, but some of your legendary effects.
It sounds a lot like Clueless More in a circle jerking, trying to convince even more moronic people to pay for more money for
power
this
those
shit.
up and blend them together in the same build. Additionally, we're adding some new.
I feel like this is
and this has really helped to give you a way, along with ultimate skill ranks, to spend a lot of
they do that a lot. The whole everything's so fun. It looks great. Yeah, that
the new skill points you're getting.
They're trying to hype up their own shit.
All right, we also got some new items, of course. We've got the Ugly Bastard Helm, a new unique helm for barbarians.
Helmet for Zoli.
And it makes you so ugly that whenever you are berserking, all of your damage is converted into fire damage. And so that's really interesting. Barbars always had this little bit of like light fire theme. You had a few different effects that dealt fire damage. And now if you really want to play a fire barb,
I'm guessing barb can then get fire increases.
Also playing into that, we've got Aspect of Flaming Rampage,
Prolific
which causes your charge to deal some fire damage, and Aspect of Shuddering Steel, which will cause your Steel Grasp and Iron Maelstrom to do some bonus physical damage.
Why would you want it to do fire damage in the first place when you have the conversion?
Moving on to the Druid. The Druid gets a new skill, a new core skill, in fact, called Stone Burst. And this is a core skill that's channeled. It kind of has a very unique kind of input mechanism compared to pretty much any other skill in Diablo 4. And as you're channeling it, you target an area, and as you channel it, the affected area grows in size over about 1 second of channeling. And at any point, you can release the channel, and it's going to deal a big burst of damage to whatever size you kind of landed on there. You could tap it really quickly and just do one pulse of damage to a small area, or you can channel up for a little bit longer and hit a much wider area, depending on the exact combat scenario you find yourself in, or how the enemies are distributed on the battlefield here. Of course, we've got our upgrades that increase damage to the enemies hit in the initial radius, so really doubling down on that single target capability of a core skill.
I guess 0.9 seconds is fucking nothing, right? So it's like just
and Raging Stone Burst will dramatically increase the.
I don't like that kind of playstyle.
But also give it a ton more damage.
Like,
so if you have a ton of spirit generation,
I don't like that.
Then that might be the upgrade you look for in Stone Burst. Let's see a video of this in action. All right, so you see it ticks up. There's like 3 different levels, like small, medium, and large. In this one, the Druid kind of held it for a while, but you could release it at any time. And so here you see just kind of rapid firing a lot of quick, small shots, just because I knew that would be enough to clear out the enemies here. And also while you're channeling, it does some pulses of damage to enemies in that area.
That looks shit.
Well.
The channel explosion is so satisfying to blow up just so many monsters.
Yeah, it gets huge
really feels
and
amazing.
It looks so sweet too.
No,
I really
looks
hats off to the VFX artists who worked on making these look so beautiful. The new skills.
Looks ass.
All right, so of course Druid also has new passives, a new key passive called One with Nature that really empowers companion builds. We've heard a lot that players love playing with companions. They're wolves, they're poison creepers, they're ravens, and this is going to be the key passive for you. So all of your companion skills gain an additional companion, and they deal increased damage. And there's also a little bonus, basically, with you gain the passive effect of all of the companion skills. Now, if you're taking this key passive, you're probably taking these companions anyway, but just in case, your build is such that, well, I just want to take, 2 out of the 3, right? I can put wolves and poison creeper on my bar, but, maybe you don't have enough skill slots to put in ravens. You're still going to be able to get the passive effect of that when you take this key passive, because we just want you to have tons of these companions, really leading the charge here. We've also got Untamed, a new legendary Paragon node that plays right into this One with Nature key passive.
I don't want to play Companion Druid.
The companion active skill will grant you bonus ranks to all of your companion skills for a time to really.
You deal 3% increased damage while healthy and 3% increased damage while
like
above
before,
100% movement speed.
Coming into the skill tree as well.
So that's permanently 18% increased damage.
Icons on them. So like I said, these were from an early build. Some of the icons were very specific.
Okay, well
adjusted. So bear with us. This is
humanity. Okay.
PTR and early development. All right, moving on to some of the items.
Backlash is pretty good.
Oh no, we've got a video. Oh right, a video of really leading a wolf pack here, right? So this includes wolves with the Storm's Companion to turn them into lightning werewolves, and I'm sure there's some other ones here, like Aspect of the Stampede is probably involved. You just have, what is that, 7 wolves following you around, you really get to lead the wolf pack with this.
This is the best video in our presentation. Well, actually, no, sorry. This is the second best video in our presentation. You guys will see the best video in our presentation, but yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, for all you werewolf lovers out there, this one is going to be really sweet. I'm really looking forward to playing with this in patch 2.0. All right, so new items. So they've got the Stone of Vehemen. This is a unique totem
stone burst shit
that's
while
going to empower your
channeling.
stone
For
burst,
2 seconds, you
core
gain
skill.
damage reduction.
So channeling it is going to grant you some damage reduction, and the final explosion will deal increased damage based on how long you are channeling it. So
and then you get some
really
stone burst
to build
shit.
it up to that max size and let off a huge explosion, and gives you some
When
damage
cast
reduction.
at
So
or
if I'm
above
standing
100
still for a
spirit,
bit,
it is
that's
immediately
okay.
cast at the
You get a bit
maximum
bonus
size.
damage reduction.
Oh, so you get to just
We've got
pop.
a little bit more legendaries on Druid than the other classes, just because Stone Burst being a core skill, we know that the kind of bar to make a core skill really viable and useful.
Oh no!
It
Aspect
does
of
need a
Shadow
good amount of
Defense
legendary
makes it sound
items
like you want to
support
use
it
Stone Burst.
make a full build out of it. So that's why we've added two
don't want to do that.
legendaries here for Stone Burst.
How is it?
We've got
Oh,
the
level
aspect
21. Right, it's an
Anti-Climb Burst,
aspect.
which causes Stone Burst to deal
Push
increased damage. And if you
rage.
cast it at or above 100 spirit here, it's going to immediately be at that maximum size. So you don't necessarily need to channel it
Ravens
as long
now
as you
deal
are casting
lightning
it when you have
damage?
a lot of spirit. This synergizes really well with the Earth and Might key passive, which gives you full spirit when it triggers. So you can trigger Earth and Might and then immediately get a huge stone burst. We've got Aspect of Shattered Defenses, which
Not
alters
super
Stone Burst
excited
in a
for
rather
any of
interesting
those.
way.
I'm
It
gonna be
causes
honest.
Stone Burst causes enemies to take increased damage from your other skills for a time and reduces Stone Burst spirit cost. This kind of converts Stone Burst away from necessarily being your primary damage source to being a bit more of a setup skill, right? You can kind of debuff enemies.
I'm really hoping the best video in the presentation about boob physics. That's the only thing that can save D4 at this point.
Or Boulder or some other primary damage source.
I will admit though, I'm enjoying D4 right now. Season 5 is fun.
See how players,
it is.
Well, you
You just gotta
with Shattered Defenses.
You just gotta resign yourself a little bit from the RPG elements and just focus on the action.
Stormcrow, which is just lightning ravens.
There is something enjoyable to the simplicity of getting a character ready and just blasting.
Wolf, which gives Shred a fourth attack.
There is something to be
Shred,
said for that.
Normally it's like a 3-part combo, and now it's a 4-part combo that deals even more damage on that 4th hit, and it's going to knock down enemies as well.
It's less a challenge,
so
it's less anything,
Druid,
it's
really
more
looking
a
to playing some Druid,
farm out
2.0.
upgrades simulator, and you get the dopamine from getting the upgrade. There is something to it.
We've got Soul Rift. This is a new Darkness ultimate skill.
So, they get a new ult?
Necromancers kind of had 3 ultimates already. They had one that was Blood, one that was Bone, and one that was related to Summoning. And now we've kind of completed it, and we've added a Darkness or Shadow damage ultimate. Soul Rift creates an area around your character, it kind of follows with you, that just constantly deals
sounds
damage
really good.
over time. And it's going to be sucking out the souls of enemies who you're hitting. And every time it sucks out a soul from an enemy, you're going to gain some essence, and you're going to gain a barrier. So you can stack up this barrier. It helps you be survivable, and it deals really good damage over time. Supreme Soul Rift
sounds
gives
pretty
you
good.
bonus damage for every soul that you absorb, and Prime Soul Rift causes the soul absorption to also apply vulnerable. Let's take a video of this in action here. Right, so enemies all coming up.
Super useful, Charles, right? Now that you have another way to give yourself defenses. Necro has historically had some trouble with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really important part here. And when we get to the next slide, talking about some of the passives, I'll highlight. We're adding a bit more barrier into the Necromancer's kit. Blood Necromancers always had a really easy time surviving. They had a lot of Fortify and a lot of max health. And really,
Necromancer is going to be unkillable if it has barriers and Fortify.
Didn't have quite as much survivability, and so now we're introducing more barrier in more places to ensure that kind of non-blood Necromancer builds, the Shadow and the Bone and Summon Necros, have a bit more survivability and are able to scale into that late game pretty well.
So the blood ones are going to be unkillable. Gotcha.
All right, so as I mentioned, the new passive. So they have a new key passive called Affliction that there's this new concept of Affliction where applying vulnerable, crowd control, or shadow damage over time effects to enemies will apply them with Affliction, which is going to make them take increased damage from you and your minions. Additionally, when you apply a curse skill to someone or to an enemy who has this affliction, you're going to do a big chunk of shadow damage. So this kind of turns your curse skills, your Decrepify and Iron Maiden, into offensive skills. You can curse an area, and then they take a big chunk of damage.
Have they said anything about barb buffs? Yeah, they have.
And then this will scale up with the bonus damage that you've dealt.
They've buffed
the bonus affixes that you have
the weapon tempering. So naturally, Barb is going to leap ahead against Zoe.
Paragon node Frailty is going to cause cursed enemies to take more damage from you, and so it plays very nicely with the Affliction key passive. And once again,
I mean, you're going to get double damage on tempering, right? Weapon tempers, and Barbs have 4 of them, 2 of them being double effect.
Generic passive that gives you a chance,
and they get to throw your weapon, right? But you get a pretty neat damage increase or attack speed increase while it's on the ground.
And to play into the more
you get weapon throw, basically.
Yeah, going back to Affliction really quick, I love the idea
I think you got some pretty decent passives as well, actually.
Offensively, like as a damage skill, I think that's going to be such.
There's like some new passive talents for you.
Yeah,
they're pretty good.
Cool to just, yeah, definitely gonna be blasting with them.
You're a Sork main now. Yeah, about that.
Love playing with it.
It pairs really well with the utility changes. Now that we have way more size increases in utility, it gives you so many more utility options. Those curses get pretty huge.
You might want to be a Necro main next.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all of us who just want to
I think the tempering,
I love that one.
having the weapon things, because what they did is weapon tempers are now multiplicative damage, and offensive tempers are going to be additive damage, meaning weapon tempers are going to be insane. And Barbs obviously have essentially fucking, what, 6 of them.
Ultimate skill, of course, you gain some skill ranks to Soul Rift.
The Unmaker
skills have skill ranks. And every 30 essence that you spend,
I hate when there's a cap on things.
Will increase its duration.
If they remove the cap from that helmet, it's fun as fuck.
As long as you're active and kind of spending the essence with the Unmaker, you're gonna have a very long duration of Soul Rift. And then for every essence that you gain while it's active, which absorbing the souls does trigger essence gain, you're gonna do a pulse of damage around you, some bonus damage. And so
Sever no
really
longer
encourage you to
returns.
just keep Soul Rift up all the time, be constantly gaining and spending the essence, and it's going to be really, really fun to make that build work. Additionally, we've got Reaping Lotus aspect. This empowers your Sever, your core skill. Sever will no longer return to you. Previously, Sever was kind of an out and back situation.
It's so sad
now
that they put a cap on that Soul Rift duration. Like, you would want to put that helmet on and have perma Soul Rift. That would be the game plan, right?
On the
that would be cool.
And looks really cool.
I don't understand why they're like,
nah, we can't have it. Golem. Whenever you cast your Golem's active, deals a big pulse of damage around it. And your Golem will then
maybe you can still with cooldown reduction.
Its cooldown. So anybody who really wants to build around making your Golem as strong as possible, this is going to be the aspect for you. And finally, we've got Phasing Poltergeist.
Does this one have cooldown on?
Which
No, it
causes your
doesn't.
Bone Spirit to
So you'd only be able to get it
that deal
on
1%
offhand
of the damage as well. I think we got a video clip of this one because it looks really
necklace.
sweet. So you cast Bone Spirit at one target, and then it spawns 3 little mini Bone Spirits to seek out nearby enemies as well. So it kind of gives you increased area of effect, and if there's just one target, of course, it'll reconverge back on that same target as well, but also just adds a bit more AoE capability for your Bone Spirit build.
Okay.
Very cool. All right, so Rogue. Rogue gets Dance of Knives. This is a new channeled skill for Rogue. It's an agility cutthroat skill. And it also has a pretty interesting mechanic where it has some charges that will recharge, and how long you can channel it is based on how many charges you have. It's going to take 1 charge per second of channeling, but there's no energy cost or just like a normal cooldown. Here you can just channel it as long as you have charges. And while you're channeling, you're going to be spinning around, you're going to be throwing knives at enemies nearby, and you're going to gain some movement speed and dodge chance. Really is kind of like a spin to win kind of build on Rogue here.
Hello, we're making D3.
Knives, which gives you some charge refund as you're moving with it. So that's what we really want to encourage is this constant motion, this forward momentum.
This is strafe, bro.
And Methodical Dance of Knives drops some stun grenades when you finish channeling, or
this
Disciplined
is
Dance of
strafe
Knives
from
will
D3
slow enemies and has a chance to pierce through the enemies that you're throwing the daggers at. Let's take a look at this in action.
What's the next thing? Whenever your knife,
so here we got
it looks
Rogue
cool.
Just going spinning, throwing some
this
daggers
is
around
strafe,
everyone.
bro.
And, yeah,
this is awesome for speed farming. This is like the best speed farming skill.
Oh, the best
that
speed
animation
farming?
is just amazing.
That sounds familiar.
Absolutely.
Let me guess, an aspect is going to throw out penetrating shots when you're channeling.
Enemies were all dead,
or it's going to shoot out the last core skill you use while you're you're running.
Some stun grenades,
just
reset some of your charges, and you're good to start spinning again.
Just saying.
Ton of fun.
Yeah, those are perfect for like you.
Oh, these are passive, so it's not going to be that. But
a bunch of normals, and it just annihilates the elites. It feels amazing.
Three different types. Dealing three different types of non-physical damage increases the potency of your imbuement skills.
Chemical admixture, and this is empowering your non-physical damage. So rogues can do poison, shadow, and cold through their various imbuements. And when you deal 3 different types of that non-physical damage, the potency of your imbuement skills
increase damage after evading.
And the more bonus damage you build on
damage reduction.
Bonus poison, shadow, or cold damage, the further that potency gets increased. Really encouraging you to mix and match the different elements. It's really thematic with the alchemical kind of theme, and really supporting a build of rogue that we've kind of had in the game, but really wanted to give that robust support of a key passive for. And also we've got a legendary Paragon node, the Dance Macabre, which encourages this kind of 1-2 combo of casting mobility or subterfuge skill, increases the damage of your next skill, whatever it might be, by quite a substantial amount. So you can cast your dash and then position yourself, cast a big rain of arrows, and it hits very hard. Very cool, and actually impacts your moment-to-moment rotation as well. And of course, we've got the new skill tree passives as well. All right, new items. We've got the Pit Fighter's Gall. This is the ancestral unique ring. Or sorry, it's a unique ring. It's not necessarily, you can find it before ancestral tier. And this Pit Fighter's Gall will empower your smoke grenade. So your smoke grenade skill will increase your critical strike damage.
Damn, there wasn't any.
Cloud of shadows behind. And while you're within that cloud of shadows, you're going to be constantly regaining stealth. And so there's a lot of interesting ways you can play off of triggering going into or out of stealth. And Pit Fighter's Gall is just going to really enable that when you cast smoke grenade. We've got Aspect of Star Shards. This is a new legendary to directly support Dance of Knives. And the daggers from Dance of Knives have a chance to shatter, creating more shards of metal that deal bonus damage. And you can now use combo points on Dance of Knives to further increase the channel duration if you've opted into the combo points specialization. Aspect of Poisonous Clouds plays well with Pit Fighter's Gall. When you gain stealth, you create a cloud of poison damage. And Aspect of Splintering Shards, there's just a chance
whenever you're hitting a frozen so you have to go in and out, 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 in and out.
So if you're freezing enemies because you're playing Alchemical Admixture and using Cold Imbue, Splintering Shards might be a good aspect for you as well.
I never like when there's like...
All right, moving on to the Sorceress. The Sorceress gets a new conjuration skill called the Familiar. This is a conjuration skill that is all 3 elements. It is a shock skill, a pyromancy skill, and a frost skill. So there's 3 charges of it, so you can cast it back to back, and you summon a familiar of the element of your last skill cast.
Oh my fucking god, if you put that into the lightning strike build, it's gonna blast.
You just cast a lightning skill, you'll summon a lightning familiar, and same with a cold, you'll summon a cold familiar. And with the enhanced effect, these familiars will do a bonus effect. So the fire familiar will constantly apply some burning to enemies that it's around, the cold familiar will chill, and lightning familiar will stun. And of course, their damage type is going to be based on what type they are, so that it'll benefit from all
3% DR, okay.
Fire damage.
And that aura, Charles, is really great, right, to tap into some of the passives on the sorcerer.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's a lot of passives that say, hey,
10% increased damage,
get bonuses against burning enemies, for instance. Now, if you have the fire familiar, that's going to really easily be able to apply that constantly, and you're going to have pretty high uptime on having familiars out because of the way the charge duration works. Let's take a look at this in action.
Into lightning spear, it's going to go crazy.
All right, so initially we cast a frost familiar here, right? It's jumping around and it's landing, it's dealing frost damage. Then we cast a fire skill. Now
kind of like those. They look
cool. Around and kind of dive bombing on enemies. And then finally we get a shock familiar, a lightning familiar here that's going to deal lightning damage. So you can kind of mix and match these depending on what skills you use, what combination you cast them in. And it's really flexible. It fits into a lot of different builds. Even if you're just a pure, say, fire sword, and you just want to do fire damage, you just want to do burning, this could still fit because you're just going to be able to summon the fire familiar. But it really reaches its maximum potential as you're kind of mix and matching these to suit the situation and apply the debuffs that you want onto the enemies.
You can have quite a few of these out. For the Sega demonstration, I think we only have a couple of them out on screen, but I think you can have up to like 6, right?
Yeah, you can have up to 6, and that would make a lot more sense once we get to talk about some of the unique items that are coming with this patch. But first, let's talk about the new passives, and we've got Enlightenment. This really also plays into the concept of mixing and matching the elements. You see it's got all 3 kind of colors on there. Casting a skill grants a stack of Enlightenment, or 3 stacks if your skill was a different element to the one before. So you're alternating here. And whenever you gain max stacks, you're going to become enlightened, and you get a ton of bonuses for being in this enlightened state. But then it drops off over time.
Really oh my fucking god! Fundamental release. We already have this with Tal Raja.
And similarly with the
You're just doubling down on Tal Raja.
Each fire
oh my lord!
Attack you make against enemy increases the damage.
That's the ring I gave you, Sylvie. Just in case you didn't know. Use different types of elements, and you do more damage. Just saying.
On to the unique items.
So, I didn't fucking finish. God damn it, I didn't see them all.
This is a unique gloves, and this plays right into the familiar. So whenever you cast familiar with this unique on, you're going to summon all 3 elemental variants at once. However, it does come with a bit of restrictions on it. So familiar's duration is going to be dramatically increased, and its cooldown reduced, but you're going to have 1 less charge of it. So you won't be able to spam this quite as much, but you press the button once or twice, and then you get the max for familiars out. They're all over the screen, and they're going to last for quite a long time with this unique glove. So it's going to be really, really powerful too. If you're all about this conjuration build, all about amping up the power of the familiar, it's an awesome unique for that.
I wonder if those elemental daggers counts as conjurations for the passive.
Channeling Incinerate for a time, you're going to deal bonus damage to the target. And casting Incinerate will refresh and maintain the bonus. So really just powering up your Incinerate. Charged Flash, this empowers charged bolts. And after you hit a certain number of enemies with charged bolts, your next 3 casts of charged bolts will no longer send out bolts. They're going to send out big waves of lightning that deal even more damage, and it's always going to be a crit. And then aspect of elemental constellation.
A little bit sad I didn't notice it. I didn't see the last sorcerer passive. I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at
one of
the 2 first ones.
Skills will summon a matching type elemental dagger that'll pierce through enemies.
These are not too exciting.
The damage of that dagger is going to be increased if you get all 3 of the different element types in that time frame. All right, so I think.
Shit.
Right, we've got.
Let's dilute the mythic unique pool.
Of course, how could I forget? New mythic unique items. These are the strongest items in the game. We've got Shroud of False Death, and I think the really cool part about this is it's just inherent affix. It's going to grant +1 skill rank to all passives, and this is really awesome. As we're adding new passives into the skill tree, this is just a ton of power for this new unique chest. And its effect is, if you haven't attacked in the last 2 seconds, you're going to gain stealth and bonus movement speed. Now, stealth historically has just been a mechanic
+1 to all passives? That's kind of wild, actually.
Druids with the werewolf builds. But now every class, if you get this mythic unique, is going to have some access to stealth. You can, drop out of combat for a little bit, and then you get into stealth, and you get tons of movement speed to, maybe move on to the next pack or move somewhere else in the dungeon.
And it's a really simple line, all passives, but it's literally all passives, which is insane. Like it's incredibly powerful.
Absolutely.
That alone sounds really good. +1 to all fucking passives, every single one.
This one has
even the ones you don't pick, but the ones you pick, you get +1.
Hatred and earn
insane.
Lilith's favor, increasing your damage dealt by 60%. So just baseline, this is a huge damage bonus. And the second line here says, slaughtering enemies to briefly steal Lilith's favor from, or slaughter enemies to briefly steal Lilith's favor from nearby allies. So this means if you're playing in a group with, somebody else who happens to have the Air of Perdition equipped, you are able to steal Lilith's favor from them. Lilith will only favor one of you. And
I wonder if the stealth is gonna fuck up like fights like Lilith and shit like they did in WoW with rogues.
You get 120% bonus damage, and they would get 0. But if you're just playing this solo, no one else has Air Perdition around, it's just a flat 60% bonus damage, which is still a ton and very impactful for a mythic unique. All right, I believe that is actually everything. Wow, that is so much new class content, new skills, new legendaries, new everything. And I didn't even get to talk about some of our other, more regular class balance changes, updates to existing skills and legendaries. So make sure you definitely check out the patch notes. There is still more changes to come, but we're already really deep into this Campfire chat, and we didn't want to extend it too much longer. So make sure you check out the patch notes for all the details on those other changes coming as well.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. I know we have gone through a lot of information. We're in hour 1.5 of this Campfire chat. As I said, and I mentioned on social, like this is going to be a very beefy Campfire chat. We still have 2 more things that we do want to really cover off. And as Charles had mentioned, there are a lot of other class changes that we didn't actually fit within the presentation, like a lot of balance-specific items. So that will be on patch notes, and patch notes will be available on our blog for PTR immediately after this stream. So please check that out. We are going to jump into some quality of life items, and so Colin,
quality of life.
Some quick quality of life items. I'll be coming with 2
loadouts.
Yeah, I'll go quick so we can get to the super exciting
loadouts.
Cool thing. Yeah, so the first one here is you can now select your preferred town portal location. So how that's going to work is you're going to open up the map and hover over any of the waypoints, and when you right-click on it, it's going to set that as essentially your preferred location, and whenever you town portal, it's going to take you there. So this is really helpful for when you're doing whispers, for example.
Don't have to go to fucking desert area where you have to run a mile to salvage shit.
Right there. You don't have to open up
just
the map.
Set it to the tree of whispers.
Except like it's all very seamless, and it's just removing a lot of the inputs that you have to do to get back to town quickly.
Yes, please.
The next thing here is we're adding a dungeon key inventory tab for things like nightmare sigils. So that just gives you more space for more activities. So much room for activities. The next one here is we've done a pretty substantial rework of monster CC, and this is in the spirit of we want to have really clear sort of delineations between normal monsters and elite monsters.
I'm not gonna lie, these things don't really fucking matter. If you get hit by the Goatman Mauler overhead, you deserve to get knocked down.
I always felt bad to be fighting this huge
the leap, sure, days might be too much. Knockback makes more sense. But if you get hit by the Impale, you deserve to be stunned.
Like, I'm sorry. Knocks you down for 3 seconds, and that's the thing that kills you. That always felt like bullshit, right? So what we've done is we've sort of overhauled a lot of the normal monster CCs to be quick and snappy. Like you still feel them, you kind of want to avoid them still, but they're much less sort of the reason why you die entirely. So the vampire impale, when like the 2-hander like comes
monsters
and stabs
with long
you and
death animation now die instantly instead.
Immobilized, so you can't move.
I'm not sure I like that. I kind of like the animation of it. It's annoying when you have to kill the things that come out of it. I would have just
leap attack on you and you get dazed. And
like made it so you don't have to kill the things that come out of it. That they're just additional mobs.
This next change here is small, but I think it's a Blaster's Delight, which is all the monsters that had really long death animations.
I guess there's loot. Just make the loot come out instantly and get the animation still playing, but that kind of doesn't solve the problem.
Spider hosts that crawl towards you. When you kill them, they pop instantly, and all the spiders go and hit the walls, and it feels great. The zombies feel really good too. It like they pop instantly when you kill them, and it's a very satisfying experience. So this should speed up combat quite a bit.
Wait, the corpse fiend, aren't they the ones that blow up and destroy you?
The next thing here is their socketable inventory tab, another tab for you to put socketables like gems and other socketables. And then there's also an additional stash tab that we're going to add. The next thing, if we could roll the clip, we
don't see
took
loadouts.
Out just about all the.
Did the sound disc go?
Go up and then like click on the plunger and don't get hit by the spikes. That's all been replaced entirely. With just monster packs of varying sizes, and it's just way more seamless. In this case, we only rolled some normal monsters, but sometimes it's a couple of elite packs. You never really know what you're going to get. It's like an Easter or a Kinder Egg, I should say, and it just helps the dungeon flow substantially, like to just sort of blast through those things. And then a handful of dungeons have had their procedural logic updated, just so there's more variation in the layouts. So when you play it, it's just going to roll out differently. This is really just iterating on our dungeon set to make them feel much more sort of flow-inducing. Not slowing
Who the fuck cares?
And then the next one here is minor, but it actually feels pretty good, and it has a big impact on the game. When you get those Paragon and level up notifications, we're actually going to tell you how many. So sometimes you'll realize, oh my god, I have like 15 skill points I can spend, and it actually tells you the number. It's a nice quality of life change.
How the fuck do you not realize you have 15 points to spend?
Thank you, Colin, for running through quickly.
What kind of flavors
I appreciate the efficiency of going through all the quality of life changes. Now I know Jeevan has been very quiet over here. He's only chimed in a little bit. And we do want to talk about a new thing that is coming to Vessel of Hatred specifically, and for Vessel of Hatred players. So, Jeevan, will you talk us through it a little bit?
Yeah, so it's my privilege to kind of talk about a feature that the whole team's been working very hard on that we haven't really mentioned much. And we looked at the expansion. We had all these cool things, Torment, new class skills,
wow,
Horn, but we thought there was a hole, and we wanted to particularly give build crafters a new way to play for Vessel of Hatred. This is for folks who, like me, whose dream cooking show has nothing to do with British baking, but instead would be called Colin's Kitchen. Twitch chat, if you would binge Colin's Kitchen, let us know. Yeah, let's. And I think some of you already kind of have an idea. So yeah, let's get into. As some of you already know, we're going to be talking about Runewords.
Oh,
yeah. So let's start with a little background. So Runewords were in Diablo 2. And they were a very powerful way of augmenting gear with socketable content. And there's a lot of good sort of nostalgic feelings. They were popular. They were remembered fondly. You can look on the right. That's one of the most iconic examples from Diablo 2. The name is Enigma, and you would make it with runes, Ja if Bur, and it would get you some really cool skills that would come out of it when you put it all together. And for Diablo 4, we wanted to retain the soul of what Diablo 2 Runewords did, which is combining socketable components and creating more powerful items.
Dude, that chest alone has more complexity than Diablo 4.
Felt appropriately fresh and new. And we wanted to lean into what's unique about the modern game to make the Diablo 4 version of Runewords and make it stand on its own and really feel like the right version to be given to players.
Yeah, and what was so awesome about Diablo 2 Runewords, right, was you got this set of runes that made a god item, right, and it broke the rules, like being able to teleport on other classes. Like, what the hell, Barbarian is teleporting across the screen? We really wanted to embrace that in a way that extended builds and didn't necessarily enforce you must play with this item, and we're really excited to share what that's sort of manifested, right?
Yeah, and you all have a lot of builds that you started with from the base game, and we want to add on to those.
Make your own spells?
What are Runewords? They're a way for you to make your own spells. So there are two types of runes. There's runes of ritual, and they specify actions from the player that they have to trigger. So you can see the example here.
Wow, that looks boring as fuck.
Legendary quality rune of ritual. You have to cast a skill, which has a cooldown. So, Frost Nova or something like that. Then you have runes of invocation. And these grant powerful effects as a result of satisfying those runes of ritual. So the example here, the Gar rune, gives you 2.5% critical strike chance for 5 seconds. And you can stack up to 10 times.
So you get 3 of these.
And you can mix and match these. There'll be a lot of different
chest, and
runes of
legs.
ritual and runes of invocation, and you can put them together as you see fit. So when you combine a rune of ritual and rune of invocation, you pair them together, you put them in an item with 2 sockets, boom, you form a rune word. And as you can tell, there's going to be rarity. We're going to have magic, rare, and legendary, and the higher rarity runes will have more potent conditions or effects. So one of the important elements of this is called offering, which is the rune resource system. So your runes of ritual will generate offering, and they're meant to feed into their linked runes of invocation so that they can consume that offering. And the sort of more demanding rituals that we would ask of you as a player gain you more offering. At the same time, the more powerful invocations that you would try to get require more offering. And so there's sort of like shared economy there. So if you can look at these runes on the right, you get 50 offering for casting a skill with a cooldown. And this rune only requires 25 offering for it to trigger. That's where overflow comes in. Overflow is when an invocation receives an offering in excess of what's needed to trigger it. But put more simply, we want you to have a mix and match system, but we want the pieces to be not super hard that they can't fit together easily when they have some rough edges. So many invocations can get different bonus effects when overflowed. Some of them might get increased radius to the effect. Some of them might get increased duration. But it'll always be proportional to the overflow amount. So as an example here, the Gar rune only requires 25 offering, and it's getting double that, which is 50 from the Yule rune. So every time you cast a skill with a cooldown, you'll get 2 stacks of 2.5% critical strike chance, or 5% crit strike. And so that's kind of how you get to play with this system, and you get to optimize it in different ways.
And it creates a lot of flexibility, right, Jeevan? Like if you do a really demanding ritual trigger, for example, on a really low offering rune of invocation, it's almost a way to start scaling that rune of invocation in a completely different way beyond just triggering the rune.
Exactly, yeah. It lets us as developers be more flexible in creating wide ranges of effects, sort of small ones, big ones, and also the same for the rituals. And you get to kind of decide which ones you think fit your build or are cool. And we do our best to make sure that you can almost cook up anything.
So, essentially, regular gems are dead?
Runes can be socketed into items with 2 sockets. We've added another item to get 2 sockets.
Only 2 runes.
So you'll have your helm, your 2-hander, your gloves, your helm, 2-hander, pants.
Oh, there it is. There it is. You have to buy Vessel of Hatred to play the game. There's the power system. If you don't buy Vessel of Hatred, you won't be as powerful.
You can't equip the same rune twice. And they're available for users who own Vessel of Hatred. They stack in your inventory in the new socketable inventory tab, which will also have your gems. And runes.
Oh, gems are going back into the inventory?
Okay. And they unlock with a quest in the campaign. Both runes dropping as loot, but also rune crafting, which we'll get into later. And they drop at a higher rate in the Undercity, which is a specific place you can farm them. So now let's get into some clips here. We get to actually see it in action. So this is a Barbarian, and the rune of ritual they have is travel 5 meters. Very simple. And they're going to join that to the Earthquake, which is a legendary aspect that you've already seen before, which requires 100 offering. So you see, we'll put them together in this item.
The fuck's the other one he has equipped?
And then all they have to do is just run around. Boom, Earthquake. Dropping.
That looks horrible. Why would you have it like that?
Glyph we just talked about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Earthquake train is leaving the station.
Why the fuck would you have it travel and then you do an Earthquake?
It doesn't just count your normal walking, right? If you're leaping, if you're charging, that's all counting towards like the distance that you're moving, right?
Oh, yeah. Whoa.
And you can see it here in like the Whirlwind, for instance. Like it's obviously spawning earthquakes. So
was that a Druid Petrify Ultimate? This must be the wrong clip. All right, sorry guys. We're doing it live.
Wow.
Let's just move on to the next one. Okay, so we have a Necromancer here with the Rune of Ritual, cast a non-channeled core skill, getting 25
+3
each.
to all skills?
And then this is a classic from D2, gain +3 to all skills.
Wild.
So you'll get to see this Necro's got 5 skill ranks for Reap and Sever. And they're going to go out and
casual, socketable Harlequin crest, pretty good.
Yeah, but it requires fucking 400 of that shit. I wonder what the uptime is on that.
Pew pew, just doing your basic core skill usage, filling up the offering needed.
Yeah, I really like the little tracking buff that fills up as you're getting it. So you don't need to really micromanage this. You can just at a glance see that, hey, I just filled it up, and now I get +3 ranks of Sever.
Yep. So now you're at +3. There you go.
But for how long?
So yeah, this Necro's just cooking, and
what's he gonna? That was teleport. Yeah.
Is this another broken clip? Did they just cast teleport? What?
My fucking god, dude, stop.
Okay, I think you guys
teleporting Necros. What are you cooking over there, Jeevan?
Yeah, I'll stop making jokes mostly. Yeah, so
place should activate
really
with the sorcerer teleport, blinking further, dealing damage, becoming unstoppable.
Was the ability to cast other classes' skills and use their power.
Invoke the Barbarian's Enhanced War Cry, increasing your movement speed and damage dealt. Yoink.
Each class is going to share 2
Spirit-born
skills
Vortex.
and 1
Ooh,
legendary
maybe
aspect,
yoink.
like the
Evoke the Rogue's Countering Concealment, gain dodge chance, movement speed, and unstoppable and stealth.
Get to cast improved versions. So
Both
for
the
instance,
horde to crepify, slowing enemies reducing the damage, letting you execute them. Wow, that might be really good.
Decrepify, which is the upgraded
True,
version.
stunning enemies increase your
And
critical
that's kind
strike
of, we did
damage
that for a
against
lot
them.
of reasons. You know, we wanted to make some of them feel a little better.
Dude,
and a little
Ohm
more
and
powerful,
Yom seem
a lot of it is about
really good.
balance. But one important
Cry
thing
seems
that
like
I
it would
always
be
want
good
to
quality of life.
highlight here is that you always cast the best version of the skill if you have upgrades as the sort of home owner of the class, right? So what that means is, let's say you're a Spiritborn and you equip the Cry rune, which is the Vortex spell. If you have points into the upgrade, then you'll cast the upgraded Vortex when the rune goes off. So I don't think there'll be any class envy. You know, like everyone will get the best version of their own skills, and then they'll get to use other classes' skills. And we're really excited to see how people can construct new builds and new archetypes and what they can do with using the power of the classes.
And that says enhanced war cry, so that means Necros can become berserk, right?
That indeed does mean that, and that enhanced war cry is a winner. I gotta say, that one's real strong. We've already seen people just chopping up the pit with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to what kind of interesting new combinations and builds you can come up with by
using
by
three of the
dipping
same
into
rune.
other class skills in unique ways. It really just like multiplies the possibilities of what you can do with any given class.
Yeah, exactly. And not only do we want you to augment your builds with other classes' skills, but you know, runes will scale with gear. So when you get more interesting runes of rituals, you'll find ways to optimize them as well and get more output. So we really feel like people will have a lot of theory crafting.
Dude, call me boring, but I don't think this is cool. I'm going to be honest. I don't think this is cool.
By the way, that's what she's doing on PTR for me. Just break the game. See every build you can find that totally destroys everything. So now we have the crafting element. So using 3 of the same rune, you can use them to roll a new rune. You go to the jeweler, or it might not be the jeweler, but we'll see. And
runes can also be used to craft some mythic
rune,
uniques.
You'll get a new rune out that is guaranteed to be different than the rune you put in. And there's a chance to up-roll it to the next highest rarity. So if you put 3 magic runes in, there's a chance that it'll be a rare rune. Same with rare. There's a chance that it'll be a legendary rune.
Just one resplendent spark and some runes, you can get a mythic unique.
The ability to craft mythic uniques. So
that's pretty good. That's all.
Each mythic unique can be crafted with a specific set of runes. You'll need a legendary, rare.
Yeah, I do. That was cringe. I think he's just excited to be on camera, honestly.
And this is in addition to the existing mythic unique crafting flow. So
I honestly think he was just excited because Runewords is something that the Diablo community is pretty excited for, and he was excited that he got to do it. I think. But yeah, that was not great.
Gives you more progression out of it, and this is all tradable, right? So that match 3, those crafting mythic uniques. What do you think that's going to do with trading?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to really build a sort of player community around how to acquire the runes you need, whether it's because you want to combine, you know, you have 2 and you want to find that 3rd one to combine for a new one, or you're hunting for a specific mythic unique. I think we're going to have a lot of player interaction, and well, someone's going to win the capitalism game there, so we'll see how that goes.
I really like how the rune crafting system makes it so you're kind of always progressing, right? If you're getting rune drops, then you're getting materials.
Nah, this is scripted. I think they've written their own shit. I don't think he's corporate scripted. I think he was just excited for it and wanted to be cool because the first time we see him.
Here with runes, you're kind of constantly getting some of that progression, even if it's not always the perfect rune right now.
Yeah, I think that's something that when we did talk to a lot of sort of D2 diehards when we built Runewords, and one of the things that most of them tended to mention consistently was like every rune drop is progress, right? You're always moving up that ladder. And so we wanted to make sure that even if you didn't get the exact thing you wanted, it still meant something to you one way or another.
Well, I know we've talked a lot about a lot of stuff today. We had progression, itemization, we talked about quality of life, we talked about class changes, and of course the newest thing, which is Runewords, which will be in Vessel of Hatred. But the one thing we did want to quickly talk about was PTR. PTR is coming up. And we want to give a little bit, or at least some specifics on what that PTR test is going to be, and also hear from the team on exactly like what they're looking for from you guys out there that are playing, like for feedback as you guys play through the systems. Everything that we've actually talked about today is going to be present in this PTR. So all the class balance changes, the progression changes, Runewords will also be part of the PTR. So we actually do want players jumping in and checking it out. So let's jump right into some of the PTR items. So as everyone knows, PTR from even the last PTR that we had,
he'd be lucky enough if nobody gives enough fucks to meme him to hell and back.
Your renown, cleared your fog of
yeah,
war,
I think
status.
I don't think it was very meme worthy. I think it was just a
copy as well. It was a while back though. So
and also I think everybody's gonna get banned if they.
You may find that it might be.
And also one of the things that's very up in like the Blizzard community right now is
for players to actually use.
Don't shit on the devs.
One thing I will
because
note
the game is banned, right? So they're just cracking down on, just like that guy from PoE. Was it Path of Math or something?
Will actually begin
that got
next Wednesday.
Complete like IP banned both.
About
removed.
Midday, where we're gonna
because he did said something about Chris Wilson, right?
Kind of just
whatever it was, he said something horrible.
Because we really need people to try out the new progression systems that Colin and Aislinn were talking about specifically in the beginning of the stream. So
also, I think you can see in chat that it wasn't received very well.
Really need
it's a little bit sad.
Check that out.
His demeanor has changed a bit. It seems like
regarding anything.
I think he was just excited that he came off with bad.
Around midday on Friday, though,
honestly,
we will be turning on the rest of the PTR, which will include things like Runewords and all the other features that we were kind of talking about.
I can respect he was excited about it.
But Runewords and things like that will be turning in.
I don't think
Friday.
It came off very well.
One thing that we've heard from feedback from players specifically, especially as we have addressed this in the past, is that
just present what they can do. Don't be like surprised.
PTR. So
Scripted surprise.
Players will be able to go and visit this specific
Must be new
vendor.
To the internet, then?
This is the best video that I was talking about because this Fallen is dancing and it looks absolutely amazing. This vendor will be available and you'll be able to
I don't necessarily think that it's new to the internet. Maybe it's just being unaware of how it's going to come off, right?
A ton of enhancements to your character, which we do have a list of here. So you will be able to boost your character up to level 50. Level 60, of course, which is the new level cap after Vessel of Hatred actually ships. We will end up clearing out your whole map, your waypoints, Fog of War. We will do your class mechanic stuff and have that already unlocked. All Torment tiers will be unlocked. Your potions will be upgraded completely. And then I know based off of feedback that we got from like the last PTR was, hey, it'd be great if we could generate like legendary items, if we can get all the unique items, all the runes, or that's new now, but all the runes and everything like that, including masterworking materials, that will actually be available in this vendor. So this is a way for players to be more efficient while testing and being able to give us more feedback, especially around endgame related items. So we really need players to jump in for PTR. One last caveat I do want to mention is Infernal Hordes will not be available in this specific PTR. We are still doing some work on that right now before we actually get it ready. But
I wonder what you're going to get in Infernal Hordes now.
Available. Infernal Hordes, as I mentioned,
and what the fuck's the purpose of Nightmare Dungeons now
so
as well?
Coming back to the game no matter what.
Because Glyph Experience is in the pit now.
I do want to remind everyone that PTR
Masterworking materials is usually in the pit as well. The only thing you go to the Nightmare Dungeons for is Glyph Experience, nothing else.
Like things like turning Runewords on
Are they just a leveling experience now?
Gives us we have the flexibility of being able to
do they drop the glyphs? Is that what you have to go to them for dropping the glyphs?
For us to be able to have that additional,
I guess farming rune shards
to be able to make
so they're just a shitty normal rift.
Testing specifically from that end. But Colin, Aislinn,
his title is Expert Game Design. All he did so far was copying D3 and get overly excited over that.
Feedback from players
that's meme worthy.
That they can focus in on.
It's slightly different, and it was D2, right? Like, I haven't played enough D2 to really know what the Runewords were, but it seems slightly different. It wasn't just flat stat boot.
So starting from level 1 and filling out
it was like
difficulty tier is
and I'm not sure I agree with the system they've made where you need to create offerings by doing shit. That seems a little bit whatever, but
how powerful you've managed to make your character and how many of the progression systems you've engaged with. Like, if you engage with tempering and you go all out and you're like, I'm going to make my character a blaster, even though they're only level 30, like, how far can you go with that? And are you going as far as you expected you would be able to go?
Yeah, those are great points. It really is about, are we hitting that expectation that we've sort of created, right? Which is, we really loved how the Mind Cage was functioning. We loved how tormented bosses felt in terms of having hard mode versions of things. Are these difficulty tiers sort of meeting those expectations of all the things that we have had?
I wonder if Torment 4 is harder than what's in the game now, or if that is just the level 200 bosses.
Much easier to navigate.
Awesome. And
it is nice that they don't require extra materials. That's going to be good.
What's the team looking for on that front?
And you don't have to get the Stygian stones. I wonder what the fuck you're going to get from Infernal Hordes.
And the new key passives,
is it just going to be your reagent farm?
And how they're usable.
That would be sad because that system, that game mode is fun. I prefer that to the pit.
These new skills.
Vastly.
But they should also feel really good when you're in the late game and you're trying
to. But they did rebalance the pit, so maybe it's not bad.
Your stone burst, like, does it feel like that has enough support? And
well, I think I would rather do the pit than Nightmare Dungeons.
Knives and or all the other different skills, like, do they fit in? What's their appropriate
not
power
sure,
level?
Though.
And we really want to make sure that the new skills and the new key passives enable new ways of playing our classes, and that they feel satisfying to build that way.
Awesome. And Jeevan, I know you mentioned to everyone, break the game with Runewords, so is there any more extra items you're looking for in terms of feedback?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely mostly about that. I want to see what people come up with. I want to see, what you can cook in terms of builds. You can do something.
Oh yeah, he's read Twitch chat and they've been mean to him.
Also,
he sounds down
I'm
a
highly
bit.
interested in the sort of balanced feedback. I think we'll get it from all of you, but we've had a lot of people on the team work very hard on conceptualizing how to make sure this stuff is right on the edge of broken.
He was just excited.
Broken.
I mean,
and you'll get to prove me wrong if that isn't the case. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I know.
We do want to sad, man. He seems uncomfortable.
A little bit of Q&A before we.
It seems to have set in.
I know we've been here for a little while, so we'll try to grab some questions specifically from Twitch chat. I know.
Maybe I'm misreading it.
Probably the most.
I was just excited and came off wrong, man.
From the community is about Armory, and I do want to start off with that specifically.
Yes, Armory.
And I do also want to just confirm that we are working on an Armory. The team is cooking on it right now.
How much fucking cooking do you need?
Immediately, but as soon as we have an update, we will be providing that to the community. There is work for an Armory happening. We're not purposely ignoring it. I promise.
Dude, seriously, how fucking hard can it be to make an Armory?
It is.
Am I stupid?
Specifically from that end. So, I know.
How hard can that be?
We have questions from Twitch chat, so this is where I actually butcher everyone's name. So, in standard fashion, I will
save a layout.
It's just a little different now because I actually
press a button. Your character goes to that layout,
which is actually really,
if the things
really
are still available. How fucking hard is that?
I guess we'll start off with a question regarding the different difficulty tiers. So this is from Double DHZ, which is, since we now have 8 difficulties, does this mean with power increase in later seasons, more difficulties will be added? Are we planning on adding 20 difficulties like in Diablo 3? What's the plans around that?
Yeah, we want to be really measured in terms of when we add difficulty tiers. I think it sets us up for adding them when we feel like it's an appropriate time. We don't want to get to a spot where we have 20 different difficulty tiers. We want to have just enough granularity to support the amount of power that we're adding. And what we don't want to do is sort of say, okay, we're going to add things like Runewords or add things like seasonal powers and then nerf all of you by making the monsters 100% tankier to compensate for the power. We'd actually rather create a system that when you get that new power, we're going to add another band of difficulty to get even more.
I don't understand what the issue is with multiple difficulties.
Sort of guiding light is we don't want to continue to sort of nerf players into a spot where they can sort of use all
it's always going to be get to the hardest difficulty as fast as you can and play there. That's the name of every single game like this.
Now, if you
get to the hardest,
powers,
stay there.
If you're blasting penitent and leveling,
who cares if that is
good for you? Like that's something that we
3,
actually
16,
really
or 100.
to the system.
Who the fuck cares?
Awesome. I know next question that we have, this is a
assuming I don't have to go through tier 1 to 200.
Explosive Cat. Hopefully your cat is not exploding. What's the purpose of Nightmare Dungeons now that glyphs have moved out of Pit?
Yeah, so Nightmare Dungeons are going to be where you receive your masterworking materials.
No.
And because Nightmare Dungeons are going to be following the difficulty tier system
I hate
now,
them so much.
you're going to be able to go into higher torment tiers, or rather higher difficulty tier Nightmare Dungeons, and get more masterworking materials out of that. So just like, all other kinds of content in the game now, being able to go into a higher difficulty of that activity is going to ultimately be better for you.
Yeah, the grind, sort of putting a grind currency actually fits much better in a Nightmare Dungeon compared to the Pit, because it means that every sort of elite you kill, every chest you open, or every corner you go into and you find an elite pack, those are going to be masterworking materials, as opposed to today where it's
maybe it's not that bad
the instant I make a turn that is not in the direction of finishing this dungeon has been a waste of my time because I want that glyph. That completely changes when everything in the dungeon is dropping masterworking.
Okay, that makes
I
sense.
think that feels so much better.
Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I was a little bit quick.
Conversely, with the Pit, again, we're going to reward you for pushing difficulty, and we do want you to.
Why don't you just keep them in the Infernal Hordes, though? It works so well.
So we think that'll feel a lot better.
Yeah, so just for people, because I think when they immediately heard now it's just moved to Nightmare Dungeons and it's just at the end, it's actually part of the whole Nightmare Dungeon. It's not just the end goal, getting to the end and getting masterworking materials there. Just want to clarify for chat, because I know immediately there's
a good amount at the end when you kill the boss, right? Of course the boss has to have good shit, but what's really
I'm not sure I like
great
it still.
is when you run into a massive elite pack, you just randomly run into, we spawned maybe too many. Those are all going to represent, little loot bags of masterworking materials, which is going to be huge.
Awesome.
What about Infernal Hordes?
This question is from RXU105. Are runes reusable?
Yeah. So, by the way, I just want to say, chat, I've been reading Twitch chat, and what you've said has struck a chord. Anyway,
they're hot on him. He was making a joke about his cable management.
You can
maybe.
unsocket runes and you can move them into different items. Yes, absolutely. I saw a few related questions to that. They don't get to exist in the same item as gems. You do have to pick between gems and runes on any individual item.
Awesome. I know there was a question related to.
That was a good joke, though.
At least
he got it back.
Charles,
he's happy now.
If you want to answer this, or if you have additional details. There's a lot of questions related to one of the mythic uniques, and it's additive damage to demons and angels specifically. I don't know if you want to talk about.
I will confirm that is the wording on the effect. Plus damage to angels and demons.
There you go, guys. We'll just leave it at that. And
no further comment.
I know, no further comment on that. Additional question that we have related to Paragon is, why cap the amount of boards instead of just capping maybe the amount of glyphs we can use? This is from Hotner.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Something that I think we can take back and really think about. We had discussed, and we felt like the cleanest solution from just sort of the flow perspective was that we wanted to just make it really sort of compact and make those choices about which glyphs and which legendary nodes and eventually what rare and magic nodes matter to you. But that's really good feedback and something we can continue to monitor as we go into PTR and as people get their hands on it.
Stop capping things and let people go wild.
Punchy, and the connections between those boards is something that you navigate during your journey. But the sort of end point is about making those really chunky choices on what glyphs you want and what legendary nodes you want. And we think that ultimately, especially now that
although it is nice that it's only 5 glyphs you have to level up.
I think we touched on that earlier. All your alts get to benefit from this. It's really going to streamline that process of getting your points locked in quickly on those alt characters and get them into the end game really quickly. But that's a really good point of feedback.
Can the glyphs be shared as well, please? By the way,
WTF? I see this is bad. Yeah, you get the point. Well, everyone need to be in Kyovashad to change difficulty like it is currently right now.
That's a good question. We've added, actually, yeah, so you could imagine how obnoxious it would be to do the pit in Karagar and then have to go to Kyovashad to then unlock the new Torment tier that you just got. So we actually added difficulty tier selectors in Karagar as well as Kyovashad, in addition to Kyovashad. And then we also have one in Kurast, and there's also another one, I think, near the Dark Citadel entrance. We've added them in a few locations across the game just to make that a little bit of a better
Who
experience.
the fuck cares?
Question
It's
from
a
few
loading
people.
screen.
There's like Corinter. There's another question from 9 Tons of Pain. Are glyphs kind of shared between all characters in the realm, or do they have to be leveled up separately?
Please share.
So those are still leveled up separately,
Oh,
but
you're an
that's
idiot.
something like going forward, we definitely want to emphasis on like making alt more seamless to play into.
Okay, so you haven't done the work.
There's some underlying feedback there, which is, wouldn't it be great if the Paragon glyphs were account wide? And it's like, yeah, that's something we can take back to the team. And philosophically, we really want to start moving towards a direction where making alts is really easy to get into and feel powerful.
Thank you.
So that's something we can definitely take note of.
And I'll
Please
also
just do that right away.
Because the Paragon points are shared account wide or realm wide, as it were.
I shouldn't have called him an idiot. That wasn't what I meant.
Paragon points right away, which increases your
you
power
as
level,
the team,
which maybe means you
not him specifically.
and then you get the catch-up mechanic on leveling up those glyphs. So it is a little bit easier for your alts to level up those glyphs as well, even if it's not 100% shared.
He's actually been pretty solid.
You can level him up really fast in the pit.
It wasn't intended on him.
There is a question regarding Eternal Realm characters, and what happens to them when 2.0 kind of launches. What's the I'm assuming because they already have like 925 gear, if they're at max level, they'll be brought down to that new eye level that we had mentioned. Is there like any specific changes or anything, or is it kind of laid out exactly?
Fucking questions about Eternal. Who cares?
Oh, I can answer this.
Yeah.
So we are doing some adjustments for those Eternal players who really like to play the game on one character. We wanted to make sure that there was new loot to chase. We also just needed to make sure that with the new character level adjustments, we sort of had to adjust the eye power of items now that the fact that the max character level is 60. In addition to our goals of really sort of creating more grounded numbers, it does mean level 50 is getting an eye power adjustment, as well as the affixes are being adjusted. But we are going to max roll every single affix that we adjusted power-wise. So, for example, if you get a 5, we're going to take those items and adjust them. We aren't going to re-roll those affix bands. Like if you had perfect affixes, we're just going to essentially max roll all of them within that band. So there's no feels bad about, I had this perfect item and you ruined it by readjusting it. But the sort of main takeaway there is we wanted to make sure in patch 2.0 that there was new loot to chase. We wanted to make sure that the new uniques had a place to sing. And I
thought the whole point of Eternal was that you didn't want to chase all the loot.
Sort of long-form progression.
Or maybe I'm rough. I don't understand why people play Eternal.
Awesome. Question from Ice Panther. Runewords, are they applicable to all items and weapons? Or are they restricted to specific types of equipment? Additionally, can gems be inserted into equipment with runes?
No, he answered that already.
Yeah, they can be inserted into all types of equipment, so they're not restricted from being in uniques as long as you have 2 sockets for that unique. And to restate the slots that are available with 2 sockets, on base game it's 3. It's chest, pants, and 2-hander. We're also adding a second socket to helm, so you'll have 4 slots. And you cannot mix runes with gems in any item, and you wouldn't want to. You'd basically be losing the benefit of them.
Awesome. I know we have some questions related to like some co-op bugs. I will say that I've gone on, forums and Reddit and addressed them, that we are working on them. I can tell you the team is most definitely working on them right now. Excuse me as I cough. Still getting over my sickness. And then I know this is actually I'm going to ask this because it's a funny question. Are there runes for G and then Vun?
Oh, I mean, my narcissism certainly would have let me do that, but I think we can't do that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, I would have loved to, but I will say, there are, the runes have these sort of phrases that they unlock when you actually compose the spells, and we have some, I think, fun references and Easter eggs to the great Diablo games of the past, and so hopefully that'll kind of make you smile when you see them.
That's cool.
Awesome. And then runes, are they stackable?
I think with his name, he could have had G and Wun.
They are stackable, and we have added a new tab for them as well. We have a socketable tab, so all your runes and gems will go there. So
there we go.
Would be pretty good for your inventory.
Yeah, that would have been really messing with inventory if runes did not stack, and now that they have their own tab. Yeah, and now they have their own tab, which is really, really good. So, cool. I know we are very over on time. So I do want to make sure that we let everyone go here so that they can eat, because we've now gone well past lunch over here in California. Just a reminder for everyone that PTR is actually going to be starting next Wednesday. We will have patch notes and the blog up immediately after the stream, specifically here, so you guys can check it out. Check out the patch notes. It's 17,000 words, a lot of words, so I apologize.
Okay.
I will say that for other locales, it might be until like early next week before those patch notes will be available. It just takes a while for us to localize on some of those, and it kind of came in a little hot. So we do plan on actually having that available in all languages. Just for now, they will be English only, and immediately up after this.
What the fuck do you mean?
Again, PTR starts.
How's it going to take you weeks
two
to
different
get
phases?
the
Wednesday through Friday will be
upload the
initial phase
fucking thing to a website,
checking out the progression changes and testing all that out, and then starting on Friday for the rest of the week specifically, we'll end up having the boost vendor available where players can actually jump in and test out everything that they need to regarding Runewords and all other things that are tied to endgame. I do want to give a huge thanks to everyone on this panel here: Colin, Aislinn, Charles, Jeevan. Thank you so much for going through a ton of information. I do want to also call out the rest of the Diablo team, because they have been doing a ton of work towards Vessel of Hatred, and of course patch 2.0 and Season 6. One thing we will say is that you guys actually haven't heard about Season 6 yet. We still have information to tell you about Season 6. We'll be sharing that more here in the coming weeks as we head towards launch. So there is still a seasonal theme and mechanic with Season 6 that we'll be sharing here soon. So thank you guys, everyone, and thank you, Diablo community, for tuning in. Check out Diablo4.com immediately after the stream, and we'll see you guys in Sanctuary. Thanks again.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh, we're ending with this. Best. I love it.
We can't forget the most important member of the team.
That's a good way to end it. He said Diablo4.com. Okay. I'm guessing news. Patch notes. I was on the right page. That's he's okay, whatever. It's not out yet. Oh, your rating ranks. Right. Okay. Right. I wonder if we're gonna get these I wonder if we're gonna get these patch notes out anytime soon. Why can it not find this? Come on. Here we go. Because I want to see, maybe I can go back to the, Maybe I can go back on the Twitch stream and see the mage thing that I missed. Stop. Can I not just go? Thank you. Oh my god. Can I please? There we go. Is the VOD available already? Yeah, there we are. Let's see here. If I just do this right.
Going forward,
it becomes a legendary glyph.
About it, and we're gonna try.
And we're really committed. We're just going to be getting really lead up that build. Really interesting to see how fail into that late game pretty well. Sever will no longer return. How long you can channel? Cast need to hit.
Oh, there was,
quite
I
as
was
much,
perfectly
but,
on it.
Also plays into the concept of mixing.
Okay, so I saw this one. You generate a 6-second barrier for 0.5% of your maximum life every second, up to 30%. This effect lost for 5 seconds after losing health. Okay. So permanent barrier, essentially. Oh fuck no? What do you mean, oh fuck no? You gain 2% damage reduction while you have an active barrier. That's pretty good. So 6% damage reduction. Your Frost, Shock, and Pyromancy damage increased by 1% for each skill you have equipped of that type. Your Frost, Shock, and Pyromancy damage is increased by 1% for each skill you have equipped of that type. That's... What? But every single sorcery spell has that tag. So are you just... So basically you go all fire? Not reading patch note and shit for D4 of all things. Gain 4% cooldown reduction. Oh, wild. Okay, that's insane. I mean, if it's not live, then no. So we're just playing Rimworld. I was just curious to see, because they said that there was a bunch of balance changes, and I would like to see those. But if they're not live right now, I'll just do it alone. There we go. I think we're just doing Rimworld. I don't have the patience to wait for it, and I'm not that bothered. But I do want to see it, so I'll just look at it tomorrow, I guess. I'm not super... I'm not super excited about the changes, man. This seems a little bit off. But we'll see.